WDRB News.
Strong to severe storms moving across our area over the next couple of hours, and there is a tornado threat. Timing when to expect these storms and analyzing primary threats. Next.
An EF1 tornado tears through Chaplin, Kentucky with winds of 95 miles per hour. Coming up, we'll show you some of that damage.
As we just heard, the National Weather Service has confirmed an EF1 tornado in Nelson County this morning. The preliminary survey shows a tornado with 90-mile-per-hour winds touched down northeast of Chaplin, Kentucky.
And this video you're seeing is showing the wreckage that is left behind in Chaplin. WDRB's Joel Skipper is there. He will take us live to the damage in just a moment. But first, we're going to go to our chief meteorologist, Mark Weinberg. Mark, because we've already seen severe weather and you're tracking another system that could be here very soon.
Yes, so we knew that if we were going to be able to clear this afternoon and we were able to get some sun, we would generate fuel that's going to match what we have is a lot of wind energy. We have seen the clearing, we've generated the fuel, and now we're going to have to deal with the consequences. What you will notice is the Storms Prediction Center has expanded their moderate risk of severe weather. The storms right now are in the enhanced area. The reason that the moderate goes from North Vernon to Tell City is there's an anticipation that the storms will be intensifying as they move into the moderate. And yes, this includes Louisville, Madison, E-Town, Campbellsville, Munfordville, Columbia, goes up through Bardstown, further northward into the Shelbyville area. Damaging winds, large hail, and even the Storms Prediction Center notes a couple of intense tornadoes are possible in this scenario. And you can see they have a 15% probability of tornadoes here for Louisville. All of this said, we now have a watch that's out. So through 10 p.m., a tornado watch includes our entire area. Again, it's worth one more time noting that the watch says verbiage, couple of intense tornadoes are possible. And you can see we have warnings now banked up against our area. I'm going to take you to some of these warnings. We've got a severe thunderstorm warning right now in effect for Du Bois and Orange County. Notice the verbiage there. It does say tornado possible. For the north, we've got a severe thunderstorm warning for Lawrence County, noting that one says 1-inch size hail. So these two together are now severe. Give you a quick track on the one that's near around the just west of French Lick. And let me just adjust that track a little bit closer to the core. So it puts it in French Lick in 3 minutes from now, 13 minutes from now in the Orleans area. Another severe thunderstorm with a tornado possible. This one came out of the Evansville area, heading towards our western counties, which would be Leopold, Oil, towards Tell City. And there's scattered stuff ahead of it right now that is not severe, but is indeed around Louisville, near Magnolia and Campbellsville. In motion, you can see that line of severe storms to the west is indeed moving in our direction. And here is our problem. It is moving into 76 with a dew point of 661, and we have a lot of fuel for these thunderstorms to work with. So I'm going to walk the storms across the area so you know exactly what time to expect those storms in your area. But first, we're going to go to Chaplin, Kentucky, where Joel Skipper has been looking at some of that damage. And Joel, by what I'm seeing behind you, it looks like some significant damage.
Yeah, Mark, it absolutely was. We're about 17 miles southeast of Bardstown, Kentucky. Take a look behind me. This is what's left of that home. You have some Christmas ornaments here. You have some wooden beams. This right here, this is the entire garage to that home after the tornado approached just around 9 o'clock this morning. For much of the morning, the family of the home, along with neighbors and friends, went through what's left here on Lawrence Road. The family did not want to go on camera, but told us 6 people were inside the home. They all hid in a closet as the EF1 approached. And as soon as it was over, they started smelling gas. They grabbed their shoes, they jumped in the trucks and went to a neighbor's house. The National Weather Service was out here today and said the path of destruction is spotty and covers at least about a mile. Many of the homes do have shingles ripped off. A couple of barns have major damage, but fortunately no injuries.
It did skip down there on Han Ridge Road. But, I mean, this is very typical. A lot of roof damage, a lot of tree damage, twisting and turning of the debris, mainly towards the northeast, east, and southeasterly direction.
And a lot of that wind has been back and forth for much of the day. The family tells us the livestock and all their pets are okay, as cleanup is going to take a while. They said they really don't think there is much to salvage behind me, and it looks like they will have to demolish the rest of the home. Fallon?
But looking at all that damage behind you, it's such a blessing that no one was injured. All right, Joel, thank you. Well, the University of Louisville and University of Kentucky canceled afternoon classes because of the threat of severe weather. Many schools also dismissed early today to get ahead of these storms. Greater Clark County schools let students out around 12:30 this afternoon. East and West Washington County, Scott County, Crawford, Spring Valley, North Harrison, Jennings County, and Borden-Henryville School Corporation all dismissed early today. You can always find the latest closing delays or dismissals on our website, WDRB.com. Well, this isn't the first and likely will not be the last day of storms we deal with this spring.
WDRB's Darby Bean shows us ways to be prepared whenever severe weather strikes. Darby?
Hey guys, we are outside right now, outside WDRB in our front area here. We have seen wind, we have seen the sun come out. It's also sprinkled on us a little bit just in the first few minutes that we've been out here getting ready for this show today. And today we are focusing on tips for what people can do to be prepared for severe weather anytime it hits. Just last month, storms swept through parts of Kentuckiana, peeling back roofs, snapping trees, and damaging homes.
It's already been an active spring. We are likely going to continue to see more severe weather this spring.
The conversations not only focus on the radar itself, but also how to be prepared. In Louisville, the city has its emergency operations center set up inside MetroSafe.
We are on top of things, monitoring, and we're ready for whatever may happen.
Anyone trying to keep up with the latest alerts can get those straight to their cell phones by texting Lens Alert to 67283 and signing up for Louisville's emergency notification system. Also in the palm of your hand, the WDRB weather app. It's a free download that gives access to notifications and alerts, a radar, hourly and daily weather, and more.
We always encourage people to have at least 2 ways to receive warnings, because what if your cell phone dies or the cell service is out or something like that?
Another way to get those warnings is through a NOAA weather radio.
If you have a weather radio, use it.
So what happens if active weather arrives?
You want to go to the lowest level of whatever structure you're in and think about putting as many walls between you and the storm outside as you can.
For those on the road, try to safely and quickly get inside.
We definitely expect still an active spring. Now is the time to think about those safety plans so that you're prepared for the next round.
A big thank you today to Hannah Strong, who talked to us some this morning, giving us some of those answers to the questions that many of you at home likely have. Another question that we asked her, what do you do if you find yourself getting stuck in the car somewhere, trying to either get to a destination to get safe, or it happens and you don't realize it's coming that fast. You're in the car, you're on the road. She said what you need to do is try to get off of the road, get off the highway, the interstate, wherever you are, and try to find a building or a secure structure to get in. She said the old get out of the car, get in a ditch situation. She said, don't do that. You need to find a building somewhere safe to go inside. And coming up at 5 o'clock, we've been also talking to several Kentuckiana counties today about shelters that people can go to if they need that space. We'll have that in a little bit.
All right, Darby, important information. Thank you.
Well, a big trap.
NASDAQ lost 156 to close at 16,240.
WDRB weather, sponsored by Bryant Heating and Cooling.
So we knew when we talked yesterday that if we got sunshine this afternoon, we could have a problem. And so the Storms Prediction Center continues us, and you can see Louisville in this moderate risk. Damaging winds, hail are going to be the primary threats. Some spin-up tornadoes could occur, absolutely, and even a couple of strong tornadoes could occur. And so this, I think, does get your attention. Is this to kind of, overplay this? I just think that we need to be aware that some of the data still indicates potential here for a strong tornado. And you'll notice that the Storms Prediction Center has a 15% chance of a tornado in Louisville. And you'll notice our entire area has that hatched line. So the hatched line means a 10% chance or greater of an EF2 plus tornado. Again, I think these are important things to note. We're going to assess as we go through every single storm, and we're going to continue to prepare you. I say this all the time when we go through storms. Guys, we've been through storms together. We've been doing it together for 20 years, and we're going to continue to tonight as these storms move through. I'm going to alert you on the threats, ask for action if it's necessary, and just let the data speak for itself. As we stand, we've got a tornado watch through 10 p.m. You can see some severe thunderstorm warnings are out there. Remember also, we've got a flood watch here for the northern and northeastern parts of our area. But let's get into the important parts of this. So severe thunderstorm warning here. This is over Marshall. This is in Lawrence County. You'll notice that this is tornado possible and 60-mile-an-hour winds. And I just want to remind you, If you see the verbiage in there, tornado possible, remember, it can produce a tornado with little to no notice, and you need to take these seriously. One of these is just north of Paoli, 1-inch size hail, tornado possible. We are watching it closely. It's been struggling a little bit, but it's shown rotation at times. And this, I'm more concerned about this storm heading towards Leopold and Oil, just because it's further south in the line and has access to more of the fuel. 60-mile-an-hour winds, also tornado possible. Non-severe showers around Louisville. We've got rain, some rumbles of thunder near Hodgenville. But you can see that the entire line, what I would refer to as the show, is out towards the west. And this is going to continue to move across our area. Some of the data does show potential for some stronger tornadoes, and we're going to need to be aware of this. Again, not as a frightening thing, but as a thing that is important to note. You need to stay weather aware. Louisville at 76, we've got a south-southwest wind at 15 and a dew point of 61. Honestly, everything looks almost exactly as you would have expected 24 hours ago. We've surged to 72 in Elizabethtown. Corydon, looking to the west right now, you're at 74. Obviously, we're going to be utilizing our camera network as these storms approach, and we'll close it out looking towards those severe thunderstorms to the west of Seymour. You're sitting at a temperature of 73. You've got a high dew point in everywhere in the area. You'll notice dew points are surging. In particular, south of the river, these are higher dew points. We've got a lot of wind energy. Notice all across our area, winds are gusting to 30 miles an hour. And what this has done is fueled the temperatures to surge. Now, you'll notice a little cooler north, a little warmer to the south, and the fuel is going to be a little bit better to the south. So as we look at the data has these storms very close to Louisville between around 5:30 and 6. And you need to have a way to get warnings at this time. This is my real concern for Louisville. We continue to see these storms in Louisville around 7. By 8, we've now got storms from just north of Frankfort that are arcing through Bardstown to just east of the E-Town area. We've got storms that go from Frankfort through around the Campbellsville area by 9, and we can see it's now pulling past our area by around 10. So then we look at this from a closer inspection of Louisville. This is the start. You can see as we go towards 6, Shively, west end of Louisville, let's say the Chickasaw neighborhood, Russell neighborhood, then move towards New Albany and Corydon. You can see 6:30 and 7, you see these storms are making their march across metro Louisville. By 8 o'clock, you can see now the storms have made their way towards the Waddy-Peytona exit along 64 through around Taylorsville. And you can see by 9, 10 o'clock, we've pulled that away from our area. So all of this, you can see why we have this moderate risk of severe weather for large hail, tornadoes, some of which could be strong, and we will be watching. So tonight we'll drop back to a low temperature that comes in at 43. I've got a 90% chance of rain and thunderstorms. Just an FYI, we've now added into the warnings here. We have for Perry County under a severe thunderstorm warning and part of Crawford County. So we've added those into the warnings that we have out there now. For tomorrow, we go to a high of 49 degrees with a 60% chance of showers. Here's the intriguing thing. Your high temperature tomorrow is 49. The severe weather is gone, but those showers that pop in the afternoon may have some hail with them. So, Mike, it's a busy ride here over the coming days.
All righty, thank you for the update. And, of course, we'll give you those weather developments as they happen here through the afternoon. All right, we still have some problems that occur.
Mark Weinberg's WDRB weather forecast has the seal of approval from the American Meteorological Society.
So we've got storms moving across our area. You just saw from the Orange County area what some of those thunderstorms look like. We've got a moderate risk of severe weather. So what you'll notice is that the storms right now are where we have the enhanced. Why isn't it higher there? Because we expect the storms to mature as they go eastward. And so this is why the risk will increase. Damaging to destructive winds, large hail, and yes, that graphic does say strong tornadoes are possible. Now, if you're asking me, is it a slam dunk? It's not. You know, when I looked at March 2nd, 2012, I told you that everything was pegged and it was a slam dunk. I would tell you on this day, it's not a slam dunk. So we've got a 15% probability of tornadoes for a chunk of the area, including Louisville. You can see that area is hatched, which means an EF2+ tornado. A strong tornado is possible. You'll also notice that we have a tornado watch now until 10 p.m. and a couple of warnings within our viewing area. So let's walk through our thunderstorms. So the warning for the storm that was in Lawrence County for a tornado possible, you can see the storm is now exiting there, moving now more towards Pershing, towards Brownstown, ultimately could affect Seymour. You can see we've got a strong thunderstorm right now, Orleans, through the Orangeville area, through French Lick and Paoli. And you can see this is a severe thunderstorm with a tornado possible moving towards Oil and Leopold. 60-mile-an-hour winds, 3/4-inch hail. So this is one we're watching closely. It's on the tail of the line. Sometimes those can get stronger, and trajectory would move it towards Louisville. Southern part of our area, it's pretty quiet right now, but you will notice that there are storms that extend into the land between the lakes, and that's going to be near the Parkway and south. That's going to be your show. In Louisville right now, our temperature is still very warm at 76. The dew point's at 61. And we've got a 15-mile-an-hour wind. We do have quite a bit of fuel. We're matching with wind energy. And you can see the data puts the line of thunderstorms approaching Louisville within 30 minutes and in Louisville between 5 and around 6 o'clock. And you can see those storms then are marching east by 7 p.m. We're talking from around Shelbyville, including Springfield through around E-Town and Munfordville. And you can see as we move towards 8 and 9, those thunderstorms are finally starting to pull away from our area. But it's simple. We've got an evening that's going to be busy over the next couple of hours, and we're going to continue to monitor the threat. And I'll have another update on where the storms are, update on the warnings coming up.
For we know that if our earthly we have a building of God, a house not made, with hands, eternal, in the heavens. 2 Corinthians 5.1. In memory of those who died in the tornado, April 3rd, 1974. Gets me right here. You know, it really does.
As we brace for more severe weather today, we are also on the eve of one of the worst tornado outbreaks in our nation's history. 1974, dubbed the super outbreak. 148 twisters cut through 13 states in about 24 hours, and Brandenburg, Kentucky took one of the hardest hits. We went back on this 50th anniversary and found for many survivors, the scars remain.
It's very terrifying, and you just try to get it out of your mind.
We could hear the people screaming.
Someone told me that there wasn't anything left in Brandenburg. Everything in the path of the tornado, it took it.
The only F5 tornado to ever hit Kentucky touched down in Brandenburg on April 3rd, 1974.
You never get over it, what you saw that day.
It gutted this small Meade County town on the banks of the Ohio River.
Those images you never get out of your mind or your brain, just burned in.
Devastation doesn't do it justice.
It's hard to believe.
A black wall of more than 250-mile-per-hour winds.
It was from there to there, that big.
Decimated.
The house was laying down, streets being total rubble.
Everything.
People were bleeding, power poles in the ground.
In its path.
I still have nightmares this time of year when I think about it.
And now, even 50 years later,
most of the fatalities are right here in this section.
The people who survived can still see it.
There was a family and their last name was Son.
That was never more evident than when we took a ride recently with Steve Straney, retracing the path of the storm.
And they had just come from the library.
He was a senior in high school in 1974.
They got caught right in the middle of the tornado, and they were scattered. And I found one of the children down closer to the church down there.
Straney vividly remembers the sights, the sounds, even the smells as he muddled through the mess, finding the wounded and the dead.
The insulation blowing around, you can smell, when these houses went down, there was dirt and dust and stuff that got scattered in there.
31 people died, 128 homes were destroyed, 30 buildings flattened, including the county courthouse.
We just happened to walk outside and saw it coming.
David Pace can't forget either. He was in a house that doubled as City Hall. 50 years later, he's Brandenburg's mayor.
I didn't know what a tornado was.
He remembers kicking in a door at the city building to hide from the storm and worrying about the damage.
When the house collapsed around you.
Yeah, we knew the door didn't matter anymore.
Pictures tell the tale of what this community endured. Streets impassable, littered with the battered remains of cars tossed about. Snapped trees and the rubble from houses reduced to kindling.
I had an older truck that we used to help every person we could.
Brandenburg only had 1,500 people back then, so no one was a stranger. It made each loss personal and the rush to help more dire.
I was right here.
Tom Bridge also sees that day, especially when he's driving down Main Street. He was a part-time minister back then, out delivering newspapers.
I said, Lord, I didn't know I was coming to heaven in a pickup truck.
The storm toppled his truck, and he survived. Half the buildings on Main Street did not.
We went down and got Miss Rose Grinnell out from under her store that had collapsed on her.
The rescues, that's what this community remembers most.
Was in her 80s and had some difficulty getting out. We just tunneled under there and got her out.
We were using doors, kind of like gurneys, and we were taking doors off the house and putting people on the doors and carrying them to the street.
Fort Knox and the National Guard came to town quickly with nurses, doctors, and supplies, choppering out the injured to local hospitals.
It's almost like being in a war zone.
Back then, tornado warnings often came by word of mouth, literally neighbor calling neighbor saying, it's heading your way. Because in 1974, the National Weather Service was still using 1950s era equipment.
Something good came out of it, and that's the early warning system. There was no such system until this tornado.
The super outbreak sped up development for more advanced radar technology and the political will to fund it. It paved the way for the emergency alerts that now come to your television and cell phones, and the widespread use of tornado sirens. And that's what survivors in Brandenburg hold to most.
Because the town changed. I mean, it literally changed.
The lives lost here so many years ago.
You have to ask, how do I turn this around and make it something positive?
Saved countless others.
I'll never forget it.
They did not die in vain. The city of Brandenburg and Meade County will host a remembrance ceremony honoring the 31 lives lost at First Baptist Church tomorrow. A bell will toll for each victim at 4:10 p.m., commemorating the minute the tornado cut through town. I want to bring our chief meteorologist, Mark Weinberg. Mark, Brandenburg gets a lot of attention because of the lives lost, but this was every bit of a super outbreak. Tornadoes sliced from Alabama all the way up to New York, killing some 300 people. And Louisville was in the middle of that swath as well.
You know, and a lot of people don't know this, but the storm, the same thunderstorm that produced the Brandenburg F5, it weakened that tornado, then occluded and lifted. The same storm moves into Louisville. That's the thunderstorm, this same thunderstorm that produced the tornado that went through Louisville. So when touchdown near the fairgrounds, moved through Northfield as it generated and intensified into that F4. But you get the idea that these storms were producing tornado after tornado after tornado. And it is factual to say that the storm that produced the Brandenburg tornado is the exact same thunderstorm that produced the tornado that moved through Louisville. And you can't live in this city or this area and walk around Louisville and talk about tornadoes and not hear somebody telling you a story of what they saw in '74.
Certainly, if they were here, this is video from Louisville's damage from the Straney Drive and the Glenview Street area. I hear a lot of people talking about damage in Crescent Hill. Also, one of the telling pictures, Churchill Downs. Yeah. The barns at Churchill Downs were flattened.
And Cherokee Park, I think, to me, is one of the really epic pictures that you would see, because basically the entire Cherokee Park, you had just trees laid down everywhere. And a lot of people have that story of when it was dropping down north of the fairgrounds, and you hear them talk about it, and you can see it expanding as it's going through Louisville. You know, for me, as somebody that covers severe weather and tornadoes, and obviously we're talking about that risk tonight, it is a terrifying thought that you have an F4 tornado in a city of 1.5 million people. I mean, the amount of devastation, destruction, and lives that can be lost in a scenario like this is incredible.
The damage could be just unbelievable. So as we sit with our eyes on the radar tonight for the possibility of tornadoes, how does that tornado outbreak 50 years ago change the way you forecast today and warn viewers of the potential of this extremely dangerous weather?
So what Gilbert captured in that piece is factual. 1974 changed everything. There was a man named Theodore Fujita. Theodore Fujita, you may know the last name, Fujita. The Fujita scale F scale, EF or F scale for tornadoes. Theodore Fujita is the one that generated that, and his detailed analysis of the storms was exceptional, especially considering it was 1974. And this created a revolution in meteorology. We recognized after 1974 that we needed better way.
I think you have a warning right now. Rick DeLuca is trying to get our attention. We knew that there was severe weather in the forecast for today.
So we'll go back.
So we're going to turn it over to some wall-to-wall coverage so you can let people know where the danger is right now.
And you know what? We'll use the technology that has been generated from the 1974 scenario. So we now have a tornado warning in effect for our area. And this is going to be a storm that's heading towards Louisville. So this is quite concerning in terms of where the storm is going. Corridon, we've got our camera looking at that storm. We're going to be keeping a very, very close eye on this. And what I would like to do, guys, is if we can, I would like to have the Corridon camera double boxed with this, because the Corridon camera will be looking right into this storm, and we may be able to see exactly what that storm is doing and whether indeed it would or would not have a tornado on it. So right now we've got a tornado warning just issued here. The tornado warning is now in effect for, let me make sure I get all of this correct here coming out, until 5:15 Eastern. Tornado warning for Harrison, Crawford, Perry, and Meade County, and this is a storm that is rapidly increasing in the intensity. Our Corridon camera is looking directly at that storm, so this is going to give us a lot of value in terms of looking at it. For what it's worth, by the way, this is something I'm going to be updating as we go through. Louisville already, just from straight winds, has 1,455 people without power. All this, now we go back to the tornado warning. Let me give you very, very specifics on this. Tornado warning issued until 5:15 for Crawford, Harrison, Meade, and Perry County. So for those in the production booth, this is at least a 30-minute tornado warning, just so you guys know how long we're going to be staying with this. And we're going to go over to Storm View 3D, and I'm going to take a walk over to the weather wall as we take a look at and assess, are we talking about a tornado possible? Are we talking about a tornado on the ground? Because there's a very different situation. Number one, all things considered, would I have issued this tornado warning? 100% yes. Now, if you remember earlier, I mentioned that this storm is on the tail of a line. We call this type of a storm a tail end Charlie. Now, a lot of people had not heard that term prior to March 14th when Milton, Madison, Hanover were hit by a tornado. The tail end Charlies traditionally have access to more fuel, and therefore they're going to take advantage of the environment better. So here's where we're looking. So this is Alton, so we're looking at about 7 miles to the west-northwest of Alton. Where's the track taking it? It's taking it very close to along the Ohio River near the Leavenworth area. That's going to continue its movement. So what I'm going to do here is note our area of rotation, and now we're going to put on what we call the correlation coefficient. This should look like a C of pink. We may have a tornado touchdown. Rick, let's go back here real quickly. I'd like to look at reflectivity. We have a tornado on the ground. I believe a tornado now has just touched down northwest of Alton. That is a tornado debris signature. Rick, has Weather Service gone over to tornado confirmed on this? I believe that's a tornado on the ground.
Not yet.
And if you could, Rick, click here on that. It looks like that may have turned pink. If it is, they've gone over to tornado confirmed. I believe we've got a tornado on the ground 6 miles to the northwest of Alton right now. If you're in Leavenworth, I need you to take your tornado safety precautions. So listen to me for a moment. You're in Leavenworth, you're like, what do I do? Okay, if you're in a mobile home, you need to find a sturdy structure. The way to remember this is the word duck. Downstairs, underneath something, I need you to get to the center part of your house, and you've got to keep away from windows. You have to stay into the middle of the house. You're like, Mark, I don't have a basement. Okay, so go into a closet in the middle portion of your house. If you've got a winter coat in there, wrap yourself with it. These are things that would just protect you. Remember, if there's a flying 2x4, it hits the walls. You'd rather it hit your coat if you have a helmet on. Those things are going to protect you. So 5 minutes from now, it's in the Leavenworth area. The Wyandotte area, 9 minutes from now. White Cloud, 13 minutes from now. Moberly, 14 minutes from now. And Corridon, 18 minutes from now. Corridon, it's time to take your tornado safety precautions. You have 18 minutes, but let's not run out there and try to look. It's not a safe situation. Rotation continues to increase on that. Rick, I'd like to rock back just a few frames so we can assess rotation where it was, rotation where it is. So Rick's going to take us back, and you can see here's when they issued the tornado warning. Now let's follow that as it's on approach towards the Leavenworth area. And you will notice that the rotation right now, Rick, you seeing the same thing I am? I believe the rotation's increased more over the last couple of scans.
I agree with that. It has increased, and there's the storm relative, so you can really see what's going on inside that storm. But if you look, the correlation coefficient, that has dropped out.
Okay, so we may have seen some type of a brief spin. In the environment earlier, we remember we had a tornado that touched down near the Georgetown area.
Correct.
So we know that the atmosphere is favorable for this. Rick, when you look at the analyst right now, and this really has been your position. We've worked together for many, many, many years. If you ever wonder, Rick's always kind of standing to the right of me. And the reason he is Rick is always analyzing what the storm is showing, what the rotation looks like. You mentioned that correlation coefficient. That's able to tell us, is there debris that's different size? So this is a phone. If this is flying in the air, this is going to be a different size than rain. And so this tool that we have here, and you're going to take a look at, gives us the ability to see, is there something within the storm that is getting lofted by potentially a tornado?
And you mentioned the phone. I mean, this could be anything. This could be shingles, this could be tree branches, this could be 2x4s, you know, some sheet metal, anything this encounters, it lifts it up and then throws it out. So let me rock back on correlation coefficient, because this was the point where we said, there's a tornado on the ground. So I'm going to move forward one frame, and right there, you see this dot? Let me go over to the wall and point this dot out, because this is important. So this little area that stuck out in just one scan of radar tells us definitively that we have a tornado on the ground doing damage. And these kind of scenarios can play out where it touches down and then lifts back up. But right here is where it indicated we have tornado, and that actually matches up perfectly with the velocity or the spin in the atmosphere. So this tells us we had rotation from the ground up to the surface, and it did pick up some debris, did some damage. For now, we are not seeing any damage as we move forward with the correlation coefficient, but this is just kind of setting the tone for the rest of the day. At any given point in time, a tornado could quickly drop down, do some damage, and lift back up. So that's why I need you to stay on your toes. Your friends, your family, your pets, you need to be ready to hop, skip, and jump right into your safe place in case this sort of scenario unfolds yet again. And the day has just begun. I'm assuming we're going to have multiple tornado warnings across the area simply because the sunshine came back out. Now, on any day, I would love to see the sunshine. On days like this, Mark, you know you do not want to see it. And now we are looking west from our Corden camera, where those dark clouds are gathering. It looks like a scary sight in Corden right now.
Yeah, so as we look towards the west, just so you know what you're going to see, and I want to speak to a little bit about storm structure here. So what you're going to see here, and we're looking due west, the trajectory is probably going to take this rotation just north of Corden. So you'll see towards where you have the terrain there, some of the elevated, you know, let's just call them hills. Behind there, you can kind of see some of the base of the clouds. This is going to be the area that we're watching to determine if indeed a tornado were to touch down. It appeared that at least for one scan, there may have been some debris being lofted. Is it conceivable it was something else? I would say it seems unlikely, considering it was buried within where we call the high reflectivity zone. But we've got that tornado potential here moving towards Leavenworth. One good thing I'm seeing, and I'm going to come back briefly over to Storm View 3D, is it looks like that rotation may have come down here on the last couple of scans. So you'll notice where Rick is located. Just to the left, just to the west of Leavenworth is where that rotation was a little bit stronger. Over the last two scans, that rotation has weakened a little bit. That is a positive sign. So if you're in Corden, you're like, I've got nothing to worry about. No. What we have seen within these storms is what we call cycling. Storms can sometimes rotate, weaken. They can drop a tornado, they can intensify, and we're at least seeing a cycle that is likely occurring within this storm. And I'm going to briefly go back to the wider perspective radar just because it kind of gives you greater perspective. Number one, the Weather Service issued a severe thunderstorm warning for that whole line. And so Louisville needs to be thinking, and I think it's also worth mentioning for Louisville that this is going to get into the city.
For sure.
This whole line is going to get into the city, and it's not that far off. But reality here is the rotation, where it is located, if it comes through Louisville, it would move towards downtown and possibly more towards, let's say, New Albany, Jeff, Clarksville. I mention these areas just because I know sometimes it's better so you can think ahead. But that area of rotation is right now sitting on top of the Leavenworth area. One positive that we have seen here in the last couple of scans is that rotation has come down just a little bit, and I'm just going to do a quick little velocity scope on it so you can kind of look within the storm. You can see that rotation right now is just to the west of Leavenworth. Rick, not as strong as a couple of scans ago, but I don't think we let our guard down here. I think that briefly we give ourselves a chance to reassess.
Absolutely.
And see, is this storm maybe weakened, or is it in the process of recycling?
And here's the thing, I mean, there's nothing really interrupting that. Yes, there are some showers out ahead of it, but nothing that's really going to cool the atmosphere and cause it to stabilize. So we do have showers, nothing severe out there between Louisville and E-Town, but that line you can also see around Madisonville.
I know.
That storm's picking up intensity, and that one is ahead of the main line, ahead of that cold front, and that's going to gobble up all the fuel, all the energy, and it's going to be by itself. So I'm curious about that Madisonville one because that could move right into Grayson County, Litchfield, cross over the parkways in Kentucky. So again, we have multiple storms we're keeping an eye on, and they all have hazards with them. 1-inch hail, winds to 60. Obviously, at the top of our list right now is the tornado warning.
And Rick makes a really valid point. So what's going to happen here is there are going to be what we refer to as clusters of storms. So you'll notice that there's a primary line, and then you've got a line that's starting to try to evolve a little bit ahead of it. And Rick is 100% right. That storm near Madisonville has breached the line and is ahead of it. It is also worth noting, so has what's in Bowling Green. These are going to be very, very important to see how they react, how they function. The storm that is west of Louisville, I'll give you a couple of pieces of info so you can have the tornado warning. Crawford, Harrison, Meade County until 5:15, 5:15. That's going to be for another 23 minutes. We'll watch that very, very closely. And then I just want you to see the other warning that's in effect. This one's for Crawford, Harrison, Meade, and Orange County. This one's for hail up to about 1 inch or so and 60-mile-an-hour winds. But it is obvious that the storm near Leavenworth at this point right now is the show. If you've got any family or friends that are around the metro area, let them know, hey, we're watching a storm with a tornado warning west of Louisville right now. That it's weakened a little bit, but we're watching it very, very closely. And Rick, we'll come back over to Storm View 3D to take a look. Let's again analyze. Are we seeing debris? Has rotation continued to show weakening trend? And for what it's worth, it's literally on top of Leavenworth.
On top of Leavenworth. It does appear to me as though it's not so much rotation in there. It's just a little more linear at this point in time, but there are still little kinks within the line, and that would imply that when one area accelerates a little bit faster, then that can cause it to spin up. So we're going to watch this one carefully. Right now, not seeing anything like we did earlier, just a few moments ago. And just to give you an idea, we rate tornadoes in 3 categories. So there's weak, there's strong, and then there's violent. What we saw earlier today in Chaplin, Kentucky was on the weaker side. That was an EF1.
It is hard to use the term weakened tornado, but you're right. It's the categorization that is accurate. So yes, they can do a lot of damage. We just went in comparison, as you noted, to the violent, the big fellas. There is a difference.
I just want people to know there is a difference between the two. So yeah, we're talking about potential for a weak spin-up type tornado, which just possibly occurred back off to our. But moving forward, this scenario would offer more weak spin-ups, but the storms down to our south, that's where we could see some stronger tornadoes. So we're keeping an eye, obviously, on every single cell. For now, this one doesn't appear to be rotating that hard. I'm going to go through a couple other products and explain what I'm showing you.
And there may be multiple rotations starting to develop on that line. On the northern side there may be a second area of rotation, and we're seeing multiple kind of hooks along that line. The problem will be, I will tell you guys, is these little notches can spin really quickly in our environment right now, and we're going to have to watch every one of these very, very closely. And there's obviously even a hail threat that's over the Carefree area right now that may be 1-inch size hail. So we're going to continue to watch that. But Rick, is there anything in there that shows you a concern of debris being lofted at this point?
Let me just go back in. Let me just Carefree.
There's the hail.
That's the hail core, obviously. So hail can also contaminate and make it look like there's a debris signature, but that in fact is not. That is absolutely hail and Carefree, and I can verify that by going over to base reflectivity, what you typically see on TV. This is what we show you, and you can see those purples popping up right around Carefree. That would imply some hail, which could be up to 1 inch in diameter, maybe even larger. You could see maybe perhaps some ping pong size hail, which is 1.5 inches in diameter. I'll turn on the VIL, which is vertically integrated liquid, and it does show there's a possibility for some hail, which is moving right over Carefree as we speak. In terms of the velocity, there is some rotation, but it's not terribly strong in that area. But like you mentioned, Mark, up and down the line, there are little areas of rotation embedded. Another one south of DePaul, another one south of Leavenworth. So there are these little areas that to watch for a quick spin up in this scenario.
Yeah, and I think Rick's right in terms of stating that right now the concern would be more of a quick spin up if we get one. We did get one that was west of the Georgetown area earlier, so in case you haven't seen it, for what it's worth, we did get a video from a storm chaser earlier that shows a tornado touchdown occurred. We got a second tornado warning now.
Right, let me focus
so now
on that
things
one.
are starting to go downhill here. And this one is about to cross 65 near the Crothersville area. Things are going downhill, Rick. I'm going to head over. Let's just show you that storm. I'm going to head over to the wall and let's do a little bit of assessment. We're definitely starting to see things getting a little bit worse as now we have multiple tornado warnings in effect. So the new tornado warning now is in effect for Jackson, Jennings County, and then south of that.
On the ground.
Oh, so we have a confirm on this?
No, but it shows debris.
Hold on a second. Let me come over to you to Storm 3D. And so you have a TVS signature.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is a problem. So I just want to be clear here. We need to be seriously careful in Austin. If you have friends in Austin, you need to tell them now's the time to get into the safe spot. Number two, this is going to go right across 65. Please understand the danger we're talking about with potentially a strong tornado that now could be heading right towards Austin and heading over the highway. Rick, I'm going to keep my hand right on the rotation here, and I want you, if you could, take me over to the correlation coefficient. I want to see if we are indeed for sure showing a tornado. My opinion right now is I don't know if I don't think that we for guarantee, but the rotation is significant. Rick, let's go back over now to velocity. I want to kind of look on both sides of the rotation here and get a sense of how strong that rotation is right now. I'm going to guess we're looking at, okay, here's new ones. What's this pink gate right here? Is this around 60, 65?
55.
55?
Yep.
Okay, come over to the green on the other side. What are we looking at? To the left.
37.
Come over here where my finger, right there, Rick. Yeah, right on the other side. What are we in that area?
It's about 27.
Okay, so we've got about 80 to 100 miles an hour of rotation right now that is indeed heading towards Austin, Indiana, right along I-65. I do want to mention, because I know we have crews out there, if we have crews out there, they should be positioning themselves in Scottsburg. Do not allow them to go into the Austin area, Crothersville. You're too dangerously close to the storm. And Rick, it even looks like now we may be evolving two areas of rotation within this. I'd like to kind of take a look here back at the reflectivity briefly, because there's a rotation area west of, oh, this is not good. This is not good. We've got a very mature supercell with a very strong hook on it right now. We're starting to see in the core here a higher reflectivity, which may indeed be indicating a tornado touchdown. I think that tornado is on the ground, Rick. That is serious. If we could, that's it. We've got a tornado on the ground now. So there's a tornado on the ground, very likely west of Crothersville. Between Crothersville and Austin, Indiana. This is a potential life-threatening situation. This is not the time where you're like, you know, I'm going to grab my phone and take a picture of this. You know, truthfully, I'm a storm chaser. I'm a storm chaser at heart, and something I've done my whole life. Is that how I want my story to end? It's not. And so I would urge caution if you live in Crothersville or Austin. Don't go outside to try to look at this. Now's the time for you to take the tornado safety precautions. Live for another day. These are important things, and you guys know me. I'm not one that takes it to the next level until I'm really concerned, and I'm concerned. So I'm really concerned between Crothersville and Austin that we're seeing some level of a debris signature here continuing to show up. This is right now heading between Crothersville and Austin, Indiana. Our crews again should be in Scottsburg looking north towards the storm, and then we would let them know when it would be safe to move in. But this goes through Crothersville in 3 minutes, in the center of your house, in the lowest location. If you've got a basement, great spot to be. If you don't, you're like, well, what do I do? Go into the center. So if you have an interior room, if you've got a closet, if you've got a bathtub, head in there, let the kids know that we're, you know, Mark says we've got about a couple of minutes here. They're going to walk us through the storm. And then what you do is you go, if you have the WDRB News app, open the app. The app is going to allow you to get that information while you're still in your safe spot. If not, turn the TV up. You can go to WDRB.com and stream us. We're going to get through these storms with you, but I need you in your safe spot right now. In Deputy, I've got about 11 minutes until it goes past you and 17 minutes in the Wakefield area. Rick, this is a dangerous dangerous storm. To me, my opinion is this is the strongest rotating storm that we have seen thus far within our area.
Agreed. To give you a couple of roads, this is East County Road 800 south that the rotation is right on top of. As you move closer to Austin. Austin, listen up. I need you in your safe place right now. Rotation is headed toward Dana Ave. It's also headed toward North Christie Road, as well as, downtown Austin. Anyone listening to me, you need to be in your safe place right now as this tornado continues to approach your area. Very strong rotation, and it's not the only area of rotation that we have. Just north of that, around Crothersville, you should also in your tornado safe place because there's some rotation which is starting to intensify a little bit over you. But by far, what's approaching Austin, that's definitely the most concerning thing we've seen this far.
And so we've got one of our traffic cameras that's in the Austin area that is able to at least show us. And can we take that full real quickly? That may be the tornado on the left there. I assume that we're looking northward on this camera. Can you confirm? I assume because of the bottom right, it's looking northward. I'm really concerned about this, guys. You can see what appears to be at least at minimum a lowering, what may very well be a tornado, and you can see that is approaching I-65. This is a terrible scenario with, as you can see, a lot of people out on the roads. Please avoid crossing I-65 between Austin and Crothersville. It is right in that specific area right now. There is distinct rotation. You can see what appears to be a lowering there. And while Rick's moving our cameras, I just want to look briefly at some of what's going on here. This is not good. This is not good. We have a serious area of rotation right on Austin. One side I'm looking at rotation right now coming in at about 46 knots. Other sides in the neighborhood of 40. So I believe we've got a tornado potentially about 100 miles an hour of rotation. This would be maybe an EF1 tornado, maybe could be an EF2 tornado. And I just want to look at the correlation coefficient. It's odd. It's not showing a powerful signal that we for sure have a tornado on the ground, but it is enough rotation to be extremely concerned. And this is not the only storm here, so I'm going to take you back over to our other radar source. The tornado warning that also is in effect still includes the Corydon area. So Rick, stay on the Crothersville storm. Okay. I do want to update briefly on what's going on because I know a lot of people in Corydon are like, Mark, I'm under a tornado warning. I want to know what's going on as well. Fair enough, my friend. Let's get through this. You can see areas of rotation as we just look right now north out of the Corydon area. So that area of rotation is just north of Corydon. What I'm going to be doing simultaneously here is pulling up our Corydon camera, and I'm going to make sure that we move it to the north so we can look within this storm. Earlier today, we watched that area of rotation head towards the Georgetown area, and I want to see, looking directly north on our camera out of Corydon, are we seeing anything that would spell tornado? So I'm going to move this camera, and if you guys could, let's move over to our Corydon camera and take that full. I'm going to move the camera, and we can definitely see the lowering that is north right now. You can clearly see this. So the camera moving, there is the area of rotation north of Corydon. Notice the clouds right there are now moving from west to east. So what you see, which looks like an arc there, is what we call the rear flank downdraft. So what that means is there's colder air that's trying to wrap around the southern side of that storm. Ultimately, what that would do is that'll increase the rotation here. So this is a sign where we can sometimes get an uptick. So this is the rear flank downdraft. See how that looks like a bow? All of it's spinning into this area right here. So if there's a tornado, it will be just north. You can see the winds are really picking up right now from this Corydon camera. Corydon, at minimum, you're going to see these really strong winds coming through at around 60 miles per hour. This is the area of rotation now going behind the tree, starting to make its march a little bit further to the east. Do we have another look as we go back to the north on that Austin shot? I want to see if that is crossed I-65. So remember, we have the traffic camera that was showing us a shot in Austin. We're going to take a look at that as we look. So there is, it looks like now it's crossed. You know, what I'm seeing, I don't think that necessarily confirms that there's a tornado there. I think we're talking about a lowering, and you can see the same thing. It kind of arcs out where the air is wrapping around this thing. Hard to say if this indeed is saying tornado or not. It definitely has a lowering. It's definitely what we refer to as a supercell thunderstorm.
Seems to be
And this is, if we could go briefly back, guys, over to Corridon camera, it looks like we've got a notable funnel on that camera now as well. So it is, these storms are doing work. Notice the funnel there on the right part of the screen, which is going to kind of go behind these trees. So it appears that we've got a funnel cloud that's just north of Corridon. Again, we're continuing to monitor the storms. Just so you guys know, sometimes you're going to see a little bit of a shake with the cameras. Remember, because we've got thunderstorms that are moving right over this area, and so ultimately that can cause an internet issue with what we have as well. But we'll watch that storm, but it does appear that at minimum we've got an area of rotation. I'm going to go back over to Storm View HD. We're going to take a look at what we've got in terms of rotation, and I just want to recap for everybody what we have ongoing right now. We're at 5:06. We've got multiple warnings in effect for our area.
A new one.
Severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings are out there right now. Overall, the whole area, the most dangerous storm would be heading towards Madison, and then the storm that's west of Louisville. We're going to look at each one of these separately. And Rick, I want to start by looking at the Corridon storm on Storm View 3D, and then we'll make our march to the north, basically so we can get a sense for both of these clusters what we have. We're on Storm View HD right now. Rick, let's move over to 3D. So the area of rotation, radar in this area. So is there anything that's showing incredibly intense rotation? The answer is there is not. This, I think, if there was to be a tornado, would be more of a quick spin-up type scenario. So we're continuing to watch this. This warning's in effect until 5:15. Area of rotation anywhere from Crandall to around Corridon, because you can see there's just a lot of these little pops in there. If you're in Lanesville, we're watching closely. But what you will notice is the Weather Service has now removed the tornado warning from the Corridon area, and it makes sense. The rotation has come down just a little bit. So Rick, now we'll go to the northern storm and pay more attention on this one. This one has shown multiple signals that it did produce a tornado, or at least was very close to. I would tell you that I think that this thing produced a tornado, and partially because of some of the signatures that we have seen. This is now basically just between Austin and Crothersville, and you can see there's an area of rotation near Austin, and now it's starting to show that there's also an area of rotation that is just off to the east by about 3 miles of the Crothersville area. What I want to do, Rick, is put on the normalized rotation. It's just an easy way to see where the rotation is, and you can see it's a little bit more elongated now. Rick, let's back this off a little bit, a couple of scans, because you're going to see how this evolves and changes. So you'll notice as we get over the I-65 area, it was between Crothersville and Austin. Now watch as we go a little bit further back. Let's go back a little bit further, Rick, just because you can see there was a consolidated area of rotation on the south. What has happened as we move forward is we've gone from one rotation center to a little bit more of a broad rotation. What this traditionally means is that the rotation may have weakened a little bit, or what's happening is it's reorganizing, and it may very well be organizing into that northern portion of that line. Reflectivity, Rick, let's look at that, because I want to see if it still has that really strong hook on it. It still absolutely does, but it doesn't have that really bright area within that hook that we refer to from the old days as a debris ball. We don't have a debris ball on this storm right now. Still, maybe just in a process of cycling. This is something we see during supercell thunderstorms. Rick, this is one of the real concerns today, is that we could get storms that could cycle, could drop a tornado, could maybe weaken a little bit, drop another. These cyclical supercells are real problems.
They are, and we said yesterday that the atmosphere is on edge. There's a good deal of wind energy. We have the fuel. We had that round earlier of storms, but between those lines, we saw sunshine. So the atmosphere had the capability to destabilize. The energy went back up, and now what we're seeing are these storms tapping into some of that energy. And obviously the hook is not as pronounced as it once was with that storm, and that's why we were pretty certain that we have a possible tornado ongoing that was near the Crothersville area. But now it's a little more disorganized, but still nonetheless, it's a supercell. It has the main body, hail on the northern extent and the main body from around Paris Crossing, and then the south side is where you get the tail and that hook. And that is now just to the east of Crothersville, and that's going to continue its journey eastward. We do have another tornado warning to account for the area of rotation. Even if you're not in that, if you're between Lovett and Paris Crossing, this is going to go right over State Road 3 with some hail, which could be about an inch in diameter. So if you have any friends If you have any family traveling that road in that zone, make sure they're off the road, hopefully in the safe place. A sturdy building is going to be your best case scenario. And we're keeping an eye on these storms, not only on radar, but the best advantage is we have that network of cameras too, Mark.
Right, and we just got this on the from the emergency manager in Jefferson County, Indiana. He said that Jennings County, Indiana deputies see a tornado on the ground heading towards Lancaster and the Wirt area in Jefferson County. This is from the Jefferson County emergency manager right now. So again, Jennings County deputies, which is one county north, are reporting a tornado on the ground heading towards Lancaster and Wirt, which would be in Jefferson County again. And you can see the Weather Service has responded. So they now that they have that report, they've updated it to a tornado confirmed. I can't say this enough. This means that there's a tornado on the ground. This means that it's not a, this storm might produce a tornado. This is like my life's in danger. This is like my family is in danger. And I will tell you, we know what to do in these situations. We go downstairs, we go into the center part of our house, and we keep away from windows. I get this a lot, but what do I do if I don't have a downstairs, Mark? Then you'd go into the center part of that home. If you have a closet, if you have a bathroom in the middle, I can tell you I've done more damage surveys than I'd like to admit because it's hard seeing destruction after storms. But one of the things that sticks out to me, and I remember this, and I showed you some of the pictures, after the Henryville tornado in 2012, I went to some of the structures and everything on the outside of the homes were obliterated. And right in the middle was that center closet. And that was the only thing on the house standing. And if you're wondering, why is that? Let your outside of your house take the debris, let it take the damage. I'm not saying that we want our homes getting destroyed, but I'm saying let them take the damage. And then you're going to be safe if you're in the middle portion of the home. It's just smart playing the odds better. And even in something that was as violent as what we saw in Henryville, it is a safer location.
And people have that fascination where they want to get outside, they want to see it. And I understand that completely coming from the mouth of meteorologists, but it's not safe. This is absolutely not worth it. And you can see here on velocity, there's that tight little couplet, the greens and the reds right next to each other. We don't see that often. So in Paris, you have 3 minutes. You need to move now. Smyrna, 9. Middle Fork, 12. Bellevue, 16. In China, 18 minutes. So please, now is the time to act. Observed, confirmed tornado on the ground. I'm going to update the tracker because you can see that area of rotation is moving off to the east. So again, updating that. Paris, you have only 2 minutes. So go, go, go. Please get to your safe place immediately. Smyrna, 9. Middle Fork, 11. Bellevue, 16. Again, that purple box, this is not the ordinary tornado warning that you typically see, those red polygons. That's not the case. This is the next level up where we have eyes on the storm. It is confirmed. It is observed. And Mark, you're looking at some of the rotation inside of the storm. You're actually being able to tell us how strong the winds are by looking at what we call gate-to-gate shear, which is winds on one side and winds on another. You add those two together, they're in knots, but you convert them to miles per hour. What are you seeing?
So I believe what we have that is occurring here was probably a tornado of around 100 miles per hour. And so you can see that south of Paris crossing. So this would be right near Paris, Indiana. And I'm going to now take you to the most current scan. And what you're going to see is the rotation is still there, but it has come down just a pinch that's going to go right near the Paris area. So let me again refresh. The rotation was around 100 miles an hour 3 minutes ago. That rotation now is in the neighborhood of 72 miles an hour. Rick, that's not saying that obviously this is over or it's not even producing a tornado, but I'm just speaking to at least a signal here that may be better than what we saw 3 minutes ago.
I know, and like you said, either way, it is not a good scenario. Right here, there's your couplet. The greens and the reds banked up against another. The green is wind moving toward the radar, and red is away. We have the tracker on it for you as it tracks off to the east around 50 to 55 miles an hour. Mark, I'm curious if we could rock back a little bit.
Absolutely.
And just see how this has evolved. And also, we're going to give you a quick update in Louisville as well, because I know if you're in Louisville, you're probably kind of sitting there like, well, what's going to happen here? When? What can I expect? I will address that in a moment. But first things first, since we have the observed confirmed, I just want to show you how the situation did unfold. So there, it moved through Crothersville, a tightening showing up, and that's why the Weather Service went ahead and issued the observe, but right between Paris and Deputy now, that's where we have the strongest rotation. When you see those oranges show up on these gates or these tiny little pixels, that's an indication of very powerful winds. And Mark, I mean, that is one of the classic signatures that we see with a velocity couplet that says we have a very strong possibility of a tornado on the ground. And that's why the Weather Service has again drawn that purple polygon around this particular storm. So as this goes off to the east, areas like Wakefield, there's Rector Road, north side, and this is going to be just south of Hilltown. So if you're in Hilltown, probably closer to the hail core for you. I also want to quickly just dive south, Mark, and just show Louisville real quick.
And I just want to give you a quick track, by the way, on that, Rick, just so you can call them out.
This is Paris 4, Middle Fork, and 4. So Paris being your safe place, same in Middle Fork. Midway, also a good idea for you to take your precautions as well, because you are potentially in the path of this. Sometimes these things can right move a little bit to tap into some of the better energy, and that's certainly a possibility. We've also turned on power outages in Jefferson County, now up to 670 people without power, fewer in surrounding counties, but still we're seeing some power outages, and the storms have not even made it to Louisville just yet. So you can see they are very, very close. We now have a severe thunderstorm warning for Louisville Metro. This includes the far northwestern section of the county, which means the Portland neighborhood, through Parkland into, let's say, Russell, Chickasaw. That's where you have a severe thunderstorm warning. Clark, Floyd, Harrison, Jefferson County. This until 5:45. Two hazards: hail, which could be up to 1 inch in diameter, and also some 60-mile-per-hour winds. These are going to be more straight-line winds. It does look a little more linear in terms of how the storm is shaped. As we take it off to the east, Charlestown 6, New Albany 9, Louisville 17 minutes until this storm enters the area, St. Matthews 26, and then Linden 30, if this can indeed hold together, and I fully expect it will, and that's because we have the fuel out there. The skies are getting really dark. I mean, you look closely, there's the Sherman Bridge. So the storm is basically on top of us here in Louisville, and we're going to walk you through this here every step of the way. I know if you're in downtown Louisville, hopefully now you can get to a safe place as these storms are arriving. If you have people maybe trying to get home quickly from work, give them a call, say, hey, if you still have a long ride, maybe just wait it out in a safe place for a little while, because this storm is moving into Louisville as we speak.
So as we stand right now, the severe thunderstorms approaching Metro Louisville. I'm going to take you back over to radar here. So again, Rick kind of dialed this in, but Sellersburg, you've got about 3 to 4 minutes from now. The Cementville area, basically, which is going to be the I-264-65 area. That's going to be about 12 minutes. Guys, can we pull the Floyd's knob camera? I'm not sure if we've got that we can pull it, but that is right within the storm right now. Maybe able to give us a sense if there's any hail falling on that. We can also take a look at this storm from New Albany, which I'm going to pull looking towards the west. This is the storm, so it's basically going to be coming down 64. And this is, if you look what's right in front of you, that is 64. So we're going to watch this really closely. One of the values, as we've always said, is having these cameras allows us to peer into the storms and see what's going on. We'll move back over to Storm View HD and head back to the tornado confirmed storm. Louisville, we're continuing to watch you very, very closely. We've got a confirmed tornado on the ground, at least as of a little bit ago. The latest on this is a tornado observed. This tornado observed is for Jefferson County and then Scott County. So the tornado confirmed here is for parts of Jennings, parts of Scott, and then parts of Jefferson County. And looking at the area of rotation, I'm going to again get you in a little bit closer on the supercell thunderstorm so you can get a sense of what we got. And we're just going to basically scope out what's occurring. The Weather Service is starting to issue warnings downstream. I really want to emphasize what's happening here. So there's a philosophy within my business. We issue tornado warnings on storms, traditionally what we refer to as shorter fuse warnings. So a shorter fuse warning means we've got a tornado. These things normally don't last that long. We're going to issue a warning for 15 to 20 minutes. What starts to happen is when we have storms that may produce longer track tornadoes, we start to issue warnings that go further ahead. And so you can see our area of rotation has now moved past the Comiskey area and ultimately is heading towards Indiana 7, just south of DuPont. Rick, let's take off the rotation marker here and zoom this out. And I want to speak to the idea that the Weather Service is now getting more concerned. Obviously, that a long track tornado may be occurring.
I'm going to switch you back over to 3D just for a moment.
Okay. And so you can see that the rotation area, they're like, what is this? Why is there a tornado warning that far ahead? There's a tornado warning that far ahead because the Weather Service is now more concerned that a long track tornado may be in progress. I can't emphasize enough. This is the time where every time you practice your tornado safety plan, this is the time where it pays off. And it pays off with life-saving decisions. You know, you go outside in DuPont, you're like, I have got to see this. I've got to see it with my own eyes. You may walk outside, you may not come back inside. And I know that sounds harsh. I do get it. And honestly, I don't like to use verbiage like this, but I also don't want to see something bad happen to you. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we get that warning and the threat level to you so you can make decisions that can protect your life and your property. So as we look at the rotation, you can see this has been going on for a long time now. If nothing else, we would have a skipping tornado. But what I believe is we may have a longer track tornado that continues on the ground. So this is going to cross Indiana 7 about a mile or so south of DuPont. So if you're on the southern side of DuPont, you need to prepare for potentially a tornado moving through your town. Now the rotation, Rick, let's take a little bit of a rock back with this normalized rotation, and partly because I want to see it's a little bit of elongated, and you can see at one point it was a little bit more of a centralized point. What we traditionally say with normalized rotation is green means go. I think it's easy to remember. When we see greens, at some point we almost always get a tornado touchdown. Do I think a tornado has touched down in this area? I do. I do think that we've at least seen a touchdown. Rick, I want to take it now back to the current, and I want to look at, do we have any debris within the area of rotation? And so I'm going to bracket where Rick's going to put on correlation coefficient. And so if this thing was lofting debris and doing significant damage, we would see basically a blue hole within the middle between DuPont and Paris. And you're like, Mark, I don't see that. Correct. Understand what the radar is looking at. It's looking at, do I see the same type of particles? Well, I mean, if it's raining, of course you're going to see the same type of particles. There's a bunch of rain dropping. Well, what happens if there's hail mixing in? That's hail mixing in right there. What happens if there's something like a home that's been destroyed and it's lofting that debris? Since the sizes can be so monumentally different between a raindrop and, let's say, the roof of a house, you get this really deep blue hole. We don't have the really deep blue hole right now. It doesn't mean there's not a tornado on the ground, because remember, we have reports of a tornado on the ground, but I'm speaking to what radar indicates at this point.
Look at that hail core.
The hail core is significant, and it's heading right through DuPont. So DuPont, you're probably looking at, Rick, what are we at? I'm going to guess 67, 68?
You're pretty close, 62.
Okay, so we've got in the 60, 65 range here. So what this is going to mean is probably we're looking at hail maybe to the size of 1.5 inches. Just in case you're curious, when we saw the gigantic hail that went north of Carrollton, that was 72 to 74. So this doesn't show that style of hail at this point. I'm grateful on that, but we continue to watch that storm with a tornado warning. Rick, let's take a look back towards Metro Louisville, because again, I know people in Louisville are like, what should I expect? Severe thunderstorm warnings in effect for Clark, Floyd, Harrison, Jefferson. The area right now is moving very close towards Louisville. Rick's going to do a quick track on it and just cover the whole line, because quite frankly, the whole line can have some 60s. It's in a minute from now, it's in the New Albany area, 9 minutes from now in Jeffersonville, 20 minutes from now in the St. Matthews area, and Linden 24. So Louisville, be ready. Severe thunderstorms are moving in our direction, and this is what it looks like. Rick, you can see from our 800 building camera what looks like the shelf cloud that's moving towards us.
And the shelf cloud, if you think of it this way, it's like, it looks like the mothership, but it's the storm exhaling this cool air out ahead of it. These storms like to ingest warm, humid air. That's what they feed on, but they also can get just kind of get this big push of air, and that's going to be the nose of the gusty wind. So in Louisville, you're going to notice the cameras start to shake really quickly in the coming hours. In New Albany, I mean, you're in the thick of it right now.
Yeah, New Albany is just in the core of it.
Look at the camera bobbing up. I mean, you're going to get seasick if you look at that too long. The camera bobbing up and down.
Oh, there we go. So looking inside this is New Albany. You're in a severe thunderstorm right now. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the New Albany area. And you can see the strong winds moving through. And I will just be clear. There is a little bit of a notch, a little bit of a kind of kink within that line near the New Albany area. We are watching that very closely. Louisville has a different view of that, looking to the north. You know, true story is we put the cameras into our area several years ago. We put the cameras into our area because we felt the cameras are going to give you a real-time analysis of what's actually occurring. Seeing into the storms in New Albany, what's actually occurring. And I'm going to take our Louisville camera and move it a little bit more towards the north, because it's probably going to capture that area of rotation. What you're seeing on the left there is what Rick mentioned. So I just want to give you a quick little analysis. This area right here is going to be strong, damaging winds. If there was to be a tornado, it would occur in this area here. So this is on the northern side of where that arc is, where that bow is. And we're going to take a look at that from our Louisville camera and zoom in a little bit and get a sense of what exactly we have. Do we have a lowering area there? I've gone a little bit too much on the zoom. Let me pull back a little bit. And so what we're going to see here is there something that's lowering? You can see just above the Louisville skyline, Rick, it does at least appear that there may be some type of a lowering or a wall cloud in there. Obviously, we're going to continue to monitor this very, very closely as those storms moves through the metro Louisville area. I also want to show you power outages because we're going to see instantaneously. It's one of our abilities now that we have to tell you immediately, is there damage being done? In Louisville, we have 518 people without power. If we could take a look quickly at the map, 1 in Floyd County, 1 in Clark. These numbers obviously would change as we potentially get more power outages. Rick, you're continuing to look at the northern part of our area. And I'm going to bring over Storm View 3D. Rotation right now is on top of Indiana 7, 2 miles south of DuPont. And we need to even start thinking down the line, because it looks fortunate to me that this is probably going to stay north. But we just got a new warning on there. And I don't mind if we pull that while we're on, Rick. What is that warning specifically saying?
This one, okay, so this one really follows the area of rotation. This is hazard, damaging tornado, verbiage we don't like to see.
Law enforcement is confirming
it. So this is 9 miles northwest of Madison, and this is moving northeast now at 45 miles an hour. So it is cooking. Obviously, with law enforcement having some eyes on the storm, it gives us a little more ground truth. But again, if you are basically just to the east of DuPont, you need to go to your safe place, and you need to go there now.
And you know, on a positive here for Madison, I mean, I know Madison's been through quite a bit.
Yeah.
This one's going to go north of Madison. It's not going to affect Hanover, at least the tornadic part of this storm. It doesn't look like it's going to go downriver towards Carrollton or towards Ghent, which saw the bigger hail. All that said, we're continuing to watch, and you can see, you know, this is moving off to the east. There's tornado warnings way out ahead of this thing.
I think it's important to just kind of note that the center warning is the one you should really focus on.
And that was just reissued.
Because that was just reissued. So they were, you know, kind of uncertain. But now that we have the core of that rotation moving east at 55, that's going to be the area that we watch very carefully. What I want to do is just give you a tracker so that way we know who needs to react. Putting a tracker on the storm as it goes east, around 45. This is going to be Middle Fork 3, Bellevue 11, and Avonburg about half hour if this can indeed hold together. So this one now, you know, the Weather Service has multiple warnings out on it, but that one in particular that we're seeing that just was reissued. Again, it's until 6 o'clock, moving northeast at 45 miles an hour, and there's some strong rotation in there. So just let me
just to mention here, Rod, can you do me a favor? Just make sure that you're checking through my Facebook page in case we've got any pictures coming in on this one. I know that we've got viewers here that are sending some. I'm doing my best to kind of move through some of those to see if anything is showing what could be a touchdown. And I'm going to pull some of these onto our Storm View 3D computer. I'm sorry, our WeatherPix computer, if we have that time to do that. 8 minutes from now, Bryansburg, and 14 minutes from now, we're watching a potential long-track tornado moving towards the Barbersville area. Remember, this is not the only storm in our area. I want to go back towards the south. Rick, I continue to grow somewhat concerned here as it looks like that storm may be trying to throw a little bit of a hook on it. And this is something that we kind of mentioned, that there could be some rotation developing as it goes east of New Albany. So this is a severe thunderstorm warned storm right now, and Rick's going to allow us to look at the velocity within the storm. So again, the one thing I always remember and remind you is where is the radar so we can assess rotation. So Rick, let's go briefly back over to reflectivity and then come back to rotation. So we know that based on radar appearance here, this would be the hook. So the rotation, if it's indeed accurate, would be really close to I-65 in southern Indiana. All right, with that said, Rick, now let's go back over to velocity here and let's see what we've got that's moving across 65. Not overly concerned on what I see on Storm View HD. Can we do the same exercise, Rick, on Storm View 3D? Storm View 3D for us has really become one of our best ways to detect rotation. We really, really lean on it heavily. You notice it's got a little green here. We call that a tornado vortex signature. Doesn't necessarily mean a tornado, but at least it's showing that there's rotation. Let's now make that flip over, Rick, to the velocity here so we can see, is there any rotation in here that's overly concerning? I got to say, I'm not overly concerned right now. And Rick, if we could, let's look just briefly at the normalized rotation to see if it's anything in there that we may or may not be missing. Nothing. There's a small area of rotation right now that's coming along I-265 in southern Indiana. So if this holds, we would need to watch just north of the East End Bridge where that area of rotation goes. Let's look at the rest of the hazard and the rest of the thunderstorm so we can assess what's moving into Louisville. You can see right now near 60-mile-an-hour winds are moving through Clarksville, Jeff, and we'll be hitting downtown Louisville here momentarily. Let's pop the 800 building camera, see what's moving towards downtown Louisville. This should be on top of us momentarily in downtown Louisville, which would have the ability to produce some strong winds up to 60 miles an hour. And I'm just going to zoom this out a little bit so we can get a better sense. And you can see there is the shelf, that lowering area with the very strong winds that will be approaching downtown Louisville here momentarily. This is what's going to be moving into Louisville, northern side of town very closely. And on the other side of the screen there on the top left, you can see Rick is also looking at our rotation area that has moved past DuPont and is ultimately heading towards the Canaan area. We're watching that area of rotation on what could potentially be a long track tornado that's occurring in southern Indiana just as moved past DuPont. It is again north of Madison by about 11 miles. This is the area where we have a confirmed tornado per law enforcement, and you can see that the tornado warnings go well out ahead of this one. Still notable rotation on that storm as it's moving towards the Canaan area. Rick, going north out of Madison, what road are we about to cross there? Because this is going to go across the major going north out of Madison.
This is 421.
So we do have a picture out of Deputy, Indiana. If we could show. Okay, Jennifer Age. So this was some of the storms that moved across the area earlier, and you could see that lowering that was on those storms earlier. And this is what is the long track storm that has moved across our area. This is the storm that could have potentially produced a long track tornado. What we know is the Weather Service has warned this thing long fuse and way out ahead of it. And what that means is there's confidence that we could be seeing a strong long track tornado occurring in southern Indiana. Again, if you live in the Canaan area, if you live north of Madison, it's about 6 miles north. You've got to take your tornado safety precautions. You need to be inside. You know, the walls of your home, I know we don't think of it like this, but the walls of your home are protection.
For sure.
You know, nobody obviously wants damage, but if it's damage to your home or it's debris hitting you, it's an easy decision.
Homes are replaceable.
And it really is true. And I mean, I think it's easy sometimes, Rick, for us to say that, you know, if you're not the one in there. But at the same time, I think we all that have family in our area think about, you know what, if it's my friend, if it's my family, my child, my husband, my wife, my parents, you know, whatever it happens to be, you know, and you know, Hannah and her husband work at the station here. We all are thinking, you know, if we're in that moment, how would we react? And I think we tell everybody the same thing. If it's our family, sometimes you'll see us step aside so we can call them and let them know, get in the center part of the house. So what we're telling you is not something that we're only asking you to do. We call our family at times, and my dad and my stepmom live in Louisville, and if the storm was heading towards them, I would immediately tell them, guys, get in the middle of the house, let your house take the damage, you know, live for tomorrow. Don't go out on the porch. Don't look at this stuff. And I think that there's that draw because the storm chaser thing has become such a big deal.
Right, you see it on social media, on Facebook, on X, on TikTok, everywhere you see it. But most of those guys, are trained professionals. They've studied this. Some are not, obviously. But it just kind of entices you. It's like monkey see, monkey do. You want to go out and do it. But what we're telling you, like Mark said, it's the same exact thing we would tell our family, because we want them to be safe. Like when I get off of work, I want to go home and know my family is safe.
Exactly.
And we want to be here for you in that same fashion to get you through these storms. So right now, we do have that confirmed tornado. It doesn't have the same signature that it once does.
I would agree.
It still has strong rotation with it, and we've seen a couple times before, we've had damage, and we also need to keep an eye on the storm, which is close to Louisville, Mark. So let's actually go back down.
We just got that. That's the one. Rick, take me back to Louisville. This is a storm I've been talking about all this time that's showing rotation and a hook. Guys, we've got a tornado on this right now. Tornado warning now for Watson. This is heading towards Utica. This is that exact area of rotation I've been worried about, because what you're seeing here is, so let's zoom this out a little bit. I want to explain what's occurring here. So this is a supercell thunderstorm, and what we have is air that's getting pulled back around. The reason this is being pushed out further is because it's rotating. There's rotation in there. So Prospect, Goshen, I need you in your tornado safe spot. Rick, let's throw on the rotation amounts. This is not good. This is not good. We have a lot of rotation here. Rick, what are we looking at? 1,200 feet above ground, maybe 1,800
feet above. You have 33 on one side.
Okay.
And then you have 46 on the other.
So we've got about 80 miles an hour of rotation. Now let's just push the tornado aside. I said, 80 mile an hour winds heading towards you. If you live in Prospect and Goshen, you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't want to deal with that. And it may be even a tornado on top of this. So, this, by the way, just so you get your bearings, this is going to be 71. This right here is US 42, and Prospect is right here. So what we're looking at here, the East End Bridge. Do we have any of our cameras from the East End Bridge? So Rod's looking. Rod, the camera that we would be looking at from the East End Bridge would be a camera that's looking towards the northeast. There is very potentially a tornado. Rick, let's look at and see if correlation coefficient indicates anything. I believe we've got a tornado touching down. Rick, let's look at the rotation.
Reflectivity.
And let's go back over to where the rotation's located. And let's lastly go back to correlation coefficient. That's a tornado debris signature. A tornado is about to cross the Ohio River right now and is heading towards Prospect. Let's be in our safe spot. I don't try to get overly serious unless I have to, and your life depends on it. In Prospect, there is a tornado right now going over the Ohio River. This is what it looks like on the East End Bridge. I mean, there are cars crossing the East End Bridge with a potential tornado right next to it. I mean, this is so dangerous right now. This is so dangerous happening at 5:38 during the middle of the evening drive. It is right north of the East End Bridge, and you can see that behind me. And again, it appears that there is a tornado doing damage. We can see the signature here. It is near Prospect, and if we have any crews that are in Louisville and available, we need to get those crews moving up 71 right now. And just making sure that we're all on the same page. Rick, what are you seeing?
Actually, it's what I'm hearing. Sirens now going off in downtown Louisville. You can hear the tornado sirens outside right now.
And I'm going to just take a step outside here just so you guys can hear from downtown. I just want to go out into our break room so that you could hear the tornado sirens sounding. Harry, just so you know, my mic's open. I'm coming towards the door. I'm going to step out in downtown. You guys can hear tornado sirens blaring in downtown Louisville. You're like, Mark, you just said that the tornado concern is in the northeastern part of Louisville. Understand that, unfortunately, technology is not advanced to the point that we can GPS these warnings and the sirens. So if you're in Louisville, you're hearing what I'm hearing outside right now, which is tornado sirens. I also want to put your mind at ease. Wow, you just can hear them screaming. I want to tell you in downtown Louisville, what we're looking at, and Rick, I'm coming back towards you, is a severe thunderstorm right now. National Weather Service, I want to see, yes, they've gone to tornado confirmed, just as I noted. There is a tornado on the ground. Listen to me closely. Prospect, Goshen, there is a tornado on the ground. It is doing damage. That is right over Prospect.
This is Bass Road. This is the damage, Beachland Beach Road, and this is moving toward Prospect, like Mark just said.
I mean, and Rick, if you look here at the other radar source, I think it's actually in Prospect. Okay.
It's in Prospect. Okay,
okay,
updated.
guys, there's a tornado in Prospect.
Covered Bridge Road. It's on top of you.
Again, hear what we just said. There's a tornado in Prospect. This is moving towards Worthington Lane. So this would then down the line potentially affect 71. It's going to cross 71, basically near the Buckner exit. I have friends in this area. Be careful. There is a tornado doing damage right now in Prospect. This is not a concern. This is a tornado we have on the ground in Metro doing damage in Prospect, right on top of 42 right now, near the Jefferson-Oldham County line. I cannot emphasize enough the danger right now in the northeastern part of Louisville into Oldham County. This is a situation where your life may be on the line. I want to show you power outages in Louisville just so we can see if we've had any changes. We have not had any significant changes. I'm going to show you the camera from our 800 building, as you can see in downtown, with the tornado sirens blaring. We're on this, guys. We're going to continue to let you know what's going on. Storms are moving through Metro Louisville. I'm going to take you out a little bit wider because I think there's a couple of things that are important. Whenever we have a tornado on the ground, there's multiple things we want to deal with. Everybody else and in that specific area. I'm going to briefly go back up to the storm right now in the northern side, the one that had the tornado warning and still has a tornado confirmed on it, south of Barbersville, Indiana. This is about to approach 62, where that junctions with 250 in Indiana, and it is an eerie feeling to be downtown Louisville at our station and hear our sirens blaring. This tornado is about to cross 71. Rod, if we can find any cameras along 71 near the Jefferson-Oldham County line, I would love to see that. Rick, I'm going to come back to you, and I want to look at rotation on this. Is the rotation coming up, or is it going down? The rotation is very much directly on top of Prospect. Rick, let's rock it back a couple of scans and then move it forward. So what I want you to see here is very tight rotation. Greens, reds next to each other. This was when the tornado warning was issued. Now I want to rocket forward to where we are with the area of rotation on top of Prospect. Is it as intense? So what you're going to notice here is it's now past Prospect. So now we need to start to think about where this is going into Oldham County. So this is now breached over the Jefferson-Oldham County line. It's going to be south of 42 by about 1 mile. Here's the area of rotation. Rick, do we see a debris signature still continuing along the Jefferson-Oldham County line? That's a tornado. That's lifting roofs. That's lifting trees. That's lifting property. That's lifting your friend's property. This is our situation. This is the danger that we face right now. And I want to zoom this out just a pinch, Rick, only because I really want to make sure that we can speak to down the line. Down the line, where is this going? So you can see, here is Buckner. Here's the Buckner exit along 71. And then so here you have Crestwood. So we're basically looking at, this is going to be going across eventually 71 right near the Crestwood exit. Number one, if you're heading into work and you're coming out of Crestwood, no, you're not. I need you to stay home. I need you to give me 45 minutes to an hour. You can blame me later. I'll take the heat. But don't go into work right now. If you're going home and you live in Crestwood and you're like, yeah, no, you don't have time. You need to find a place to seek shelter, let this storm go by, and then we'll give you the all clear when it's time to go home. But it's not the time, because we have a tornado on the ground that's doing damage, again, right along the Jefferson-Oldham County line here. And it's basically between US 42 and 71. That's where our area of rotation is. Rick, I'd like to go over to Storm View HD so we can track exactly where and exactly when. And I know what you want to know is, Mark, when should I be taking my tornado safety precautions? So I will tell you that it does look like the area of rotation is probably going to go just a little bit north. So on the northern side of the Crestwood exit along 71. Let's track the storm off to the east. Right now, there's no signal if this is going to end up being a long track tornado. But in terms of, is it a tornado? There's a tornado on the ground. 2 minutes from now in the Park Lake area, you need to be in your safe spot already. So 6 minutes from now in center field, you're in center field, you're like, Mark, how do I get the warnings if I'm in my tornado safe spot? 2 ways. Turn your TV up, bring your phone with you. You can stream us from the WDRB News app. You can watch us on our stream on WDRB.com. We're not going anywhere. We stay with you during storms. This is what we do. So Park Lake, you've got 6 minutes. Get into your safe spot. Get into the middle part of your house. In the Lyro area, 11 minutes from now, Smithfield, which would then take that into Henry County, 15 minutes from now. Andy, I didn't hear exactly what you said, but I assume we have a picture coming. Okay, guys, we've got a semi flipped over along I-71. This is along the Gene Snyder on the Indiana side, I-265 southern Indiana. My guess is they're moving the camera, moving it around because we have damage. So just, hear me out. We've got confirmed tornado damage, and I want you to look right underneath that bridge. You can see right under the bridge, it looks like some of those plastic pylons that are there have been blown off towards the east. So this is all evidence of a tornado that touched down. And also, it appeared from the last picture that we had here of I-265 in southern Indiana, it appeared that the 18-wheeler was flipped towards the west. So what this would mean is it was on the southern side of the tornado. If you ever want to remember, how do I know which way a tornado rotates? You put your right hand out, you aim your thumb towards the sky, and that's the way that the tornado curls. We call that the right hand rule. So when you then look at something, you will know if the tornado comes towards me and I'm in Crestwood, I'm going to get winds coming towards the west. If I'm in Dempseytown and the tornado goes right over me, those winds would initially come out of the south. Tornado goes by, they shift hard to the west, tornado leaves, and then those winds rip from the north and northwest. And many times what we see within these tornadoes is that westerly component, because the storm's cooking to the east at 55 miles per hour, is going to be the main component of where the damage is. I've done damage surveys for a huge portion of my adult life and worked as a forensic meteorologist. I was trained by Tim Marshall, who trained the Weather Service. Guy is so smart. But this is a tornado doing damage. We've got now, Rick, it's fair to say, evidence that a tornado went along I-265. We had a debris signature as across the Ohio River, which, by the way, please don't anybody ever say again that tornadoes can't cross rivers. We had that happen, I think, 3 times on the Milton-Madison tornado, and now we just saw a tornado cross the river from Indiana into Louisville. There's this weird idea in Louisville that we can't be hit by tornadoes because the Ohio River protects us. False, false, and by the way, false. Yeah. We've got a damaging tornado that's in our area. It is in Oldham County, and Rick, this is a highly populated part within our viewing area, and I think a lot of us have friends. This is kind of the way it is in Louisville. We're a big city, but we're not a big city.
Everyone knows someone in one way, shape, or form.
And I got to tell you guys, when we do this stuff, sometimes it's for us is a gut punch. I was asked during a recent interview about the April 3rd tornado, and somebody said to me, how do you deal with this stuff? And I can tell you, it tears at you. So you can see 2 semis flipped over there on I-265 in southern Indiana. This is west of Old Salem and River Ridge. 2 semis flipped over, and you can see there on the right side, notice those plastic pylons are blown in the same direction. All of this indicates that a very powerful wind from the west occurred. We believe that it's a tornado. Every ounce of evidence suggests that it's a tornado. We have what is likely a longer track tornado that may be occluding out. And what I'm going to do, Rick, is take it over to Storm View 3D. I noticed that you were rotating and moving this
back and forth. Yeah, what I want to kind of just explain, a good way to get an idea of what occurred and now what's happening is to look back a little bit. So as I scan back, we obviously had the very strong rotation south of River Bluff, moving through Prospect, and then if you notice, the greens and the reds, they're not as bright, and they're not banked up against one another, which means the rotation is starting to weaken. Now, should you let your guard down? No. Absolutely not. But this is a good sign that this storm perhaps is weakening a little bit. And I'm also going to flip over to the correlation coefficient, because this we had an obvious signature where there was damage being done. You see that area crossing over from Jefferson County into Oldham County, where there's that upside down green triangle, which is a tornado vortex signature. But I want you to keep an eye on the greens and the yellows underneath that. Still doing damage, still doing damage, still doing damage at that point, and then it starts to release. So that is a sign that perhaps we are not seeing debris being lofted in the air.
Which is good news.
Which is great, fantastic news. The velocity, the winds have started to come down. They're not wrapping up quite as much. So all signs point at a weakening trend. Does this mean it's over? No, because we've seen this cycling of these storms out there today, and obviously with nothing on the southern side, this still has quality air to ingest.
You're right.
So we have to watch this one carefully, because it has a reputation of producing a tornado, and it could do so yet again. So those of you in Henry County, Shelby County, this is about to cross over the line. Be prepared, know exactly what you would do if another tornado warning was issued for your area. Again, latest signs point that we're not seeing the debris being lofted and the rotation is coming down.
And so, and I am in full agreement here. I think Rick is spot on in his analysis in noting that the tornado crossed the Ohio River, moved through Prospect. As Rick noted, we saw the rotation weaken. Ultimately, we saw the debris signature, that it was lifting things in the air, go away. We believe that that tornado out of Prospect likely lifted. Rick is right. You do not let your guard down. We need to see how things are going to unfold. For what it's worth, there are more storms to the southwest. And Rick, one of the things that makes me a little bit uncomfortable, that made me uncomfortable when all of this began, is there are notches on many of these storms that still have to move through Louisville. Understand, Louisville, this may not be over. We may be able to get more tornado warnings. And also understand that this is still a large area that still has to come across our area. You know, when we looked at this situation last night, Rick, you and I kind of, we sit in the weather office together. We spend a lot of time working together. I know your weirdnesses and you know mine. But we, you know, we work together a lot. And one of the things that I said to you last night is that some of this stuff makes me uncomfortable about today.
Yeah.
I told you that, you know, the fuel amounts here made me uneasy. That it was matched with wind changing direction. We kind of talked about whether this looked like something like March 2nd. And I said, I don't think it's that level, but there's some things that really make me uncomfortable. And I spoke with one of our producers as well about that. The problem with this scenario is we have elements that make up for tornado events in our area.
Right.
There were elements, and they weren't maybe in abundance as much as, like, you know, obviously what we saw on April 3, 1974, or what we saw on March 2nd, 2012. But there were ingredients in here that really concerned us. Andy, my producer, just mentioned something to me. Okay. Okay, so we're going to take this full screen, and so you can see there's 3 semis overturned here. So there's 2 semis that are on the bottom that are flipped on their side, and there's a semi on the top that's flipped here. Now, one of the semis is flipped on a vehicle. It looks like the front of the vehicle is out. We hope that it's out and everybody's okay. But you can see that this semi flipped onto a vehicle. You can see there's another semi that's flipped here, and then you can see another semi's flipped here. Why are they in different directions? What happened? So as the tornado came by, what happened is strong southerly flow was likely pushing against these trucks that are going in the direction that the tornado was. So the wind would be pushing right against the vehicle. However, this road here is obviously not in the same direction. So it flipped that truck over. As the tornado then moves by, the winds shift out of the west, and then that's when it turned these other trucks over. Just say a quick prayer. I hope that the people in this vehicle are safe. We don't know. Our news crew, and we have a vast resources at WDRB News, is making sure that everybody's safe and getting you the information. And I can tell you that as a news organization, we vet everything we tell you guys. We're not trying to throw things on the air that are not accurate. And it's a different world from what we do in TV on what's thrown around on social, but we vet. We make sure that the information you get is safe. Multiple vehicles have been flipped over. Multiple semis have been flipped on I-265 in southern Indiana. This is north of the East End Bridge. This is near Old Salem and River Ridge. We have one of those semis that is flipped over on a vehicle. We are hoping that everybody within that vehicle is safe. We will continue to keep an eye on this. And just I want to say thank you to our producers. Rick and I are the ones that you see on air. You don't always see everybody behind the scenes, but there's a lot going on with a news crew that really helps aid us when we have these scenarios. So I want to go back to LaGrange. We've got what was once a tornado that was moving along I-71 in Oldham County, and I want to take a look here, and we're going to scope it out and see, is there anything there that shows a tornado occurring? This is LaGrange. And I can still hear the tornado sirens here screaming in Louisville. This is in LaGrange, and you can see the winds in there. It does look like there might be some hail falling as well. I'm going to take us over to Storm View 3D, and what we're going to do is assess. So Rick, let's rock it back a couple of frames. So again, I think there's a lot of value in what was it and what is it. And so what I want to go back a little bit more because I'm curious if this is redeveloping a rotation area. So I'm going to just show you what we're looking at and what I'm trying to assess here. So Rick, let's move this forward now. And you can see the rotation as it moved into Oldham County. So I'm just going to follow this with Rick as we move forward. Let's continue to move, continue. Rick, it looks like we may be getting a new area of rotation that's developing ahead.
I think so.
So it looks like this was the old area of rotation that occluded and weakened near LaGrange, and it looks like a second area of rotation is now starting to develop. This may be a sign that we may be getting a new tornado forming. You can see in LaGrange what it looks like right now. This is going to be in kind of the bear's cage of the storm. You're going to be looking at hail here, really strong winds, but it does appear that we may be seeing a new area of rotation forming to the east. This is very common in what happens within thunderstorms. Very common. So we're going to continue to watch that. I want to take a look briefly at power outages. Guys, we've got power outages now more in Louisville. We've jumped to 2,321 people without power in Louisville. And Rick, I think most notably on this particular graphic, that's probably going to bother you the same way it bothers me as Oldham County has jumped. That's where a tornado moved through. There's a reason that number has jumped.
And I think we're going to see that number of 586 climb. Just to give you a quick little update that we are now seeing the area of rotation move out of Oldham County, and it's starting to move into Henry County. And as a result, the Weather Service not going with that strong, observed, confirmed tornado. They're going back over to a regular tornado warning. That's indicated by the red polygon. This is for Henry County until 6:30 p.m. Henry County, you are under a tornado warning. Now is the time to move in your safe place. Newcastle, you got to get there immediately. Eminence, Kentucky, Bethlehem, Delville, through Lockport. You need to go to your downstairs. If you don't have a basement, then get to the center part of your home. What you want to do is just put as many walls as you can between you and the outside. It creates a barrier. It gives you some protection. And typically we see the roof go off first and then walls start to collapse in these kind of scenarios. So that's why if you get to an interior room, your chance of not getting injured is way higher. As we track this storm off to the east, it will be in Newcastle in 10, Bethlehem 17, Franklington in about 20, Slabtown 23, and Gratz in about 23, if this storm can indeed hold together. Even if it's not a tornado, you're going to get some strong winds to around 60, some tiny hail, downpours and lightning. They are an absolute given. And as we look down the line, this is obviously the area that we have of concern. In Louisville, you haven't seen much yet. We did get the northern part of the county clipped by that severe thunderstorm, but here's what's about to move in. Tracking PRP, you have 3 minutes until the storm enters the area. Okolona 14, Jeffersontown 20, Hillview 24, Flaherty 31. So what do I expect when the storm actually arrives? Well, currently this is not under a severe thunderstorm warning, but you see the nature of the storm, the little waves, little kinks. In these kinks, you could see a brief spin up, but obviously gusty winds are going to be the primary threat as this storm moves across the metro. So Shively, PRP, everyone in the West End get ready as the storm continues to get closer and closer. Louisville downtown still remains under the severe thunderstorm warning, but that storm has lifted north. So this really does not apply anymore. You have to look back off to the west in New Middletown through Elizabeth into Lanesville. where it is just coming down in buckets. There's quite a bit of lightning. And again, this storm is not severe, but at any moment could turn severe. Hopefully, we will avoid any tornado warnings here in the metro. We already had the one around Prospect. So let's watch this one as it goes through the area. Fairdale seeing a quick little shower pop up, and it looks like we have some new information over here. What do you have for us, Mark?
So Hayden and I were just talking. Hayden came over into the Weather Center, and this is something that, you know, Rick, and you can kind of come over here. This is something that we always talk about, is that this stuff affects us as well. Sometimes it affects our family. Sometimes it affects where we live. Hayden, you're getting some messages out of your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And they're not great.
They're not great. At the Taco Bell right by my house, there is a semi-truck on Indiana 62 that is overturned. And my husband had to go into our basement and bring our pets down there and put them in the carriers because we have a plan in place. He did it right away, but we are seeing widespread damage in the community where I live. And I mean, you start to realize that we are part of this community, and I just can't thank you guys enough, because I was sitting here and I was watching your maps and I was able to communicate it, and it's really overwhelming. And I'm seeing these messages pour in from our neighborhood. We don't know about damage yet because it's not safe to go outside.
Right. No. And so, you know, I just wanted to share that with you, because I think that it's important to understand that this stuff is hitting. It's affecting our friends and our families around the area. Take the tornado warning seriously. We appreciate you being candid and sharing that with us, Hayden. I'm going to take you back over to Stormview 3D. Rick, the recycle has obviously fully occurred now. We talked about what was occurring here on radar. So what has happened over the years is at my team, I can tell you that most of us have worked the entirety of our career to gain expertise in radar. I was fortunate when I was in college to work with a crew called the Doppler on Wheels. We drove radars to where the tornadoes were, and we got high resolution data, and we did it over and over and over again. And I spent probably about 3 years of my life buried in radar, like literally every single day looking at radar. And so, you know, you start to see how storms function, what signals are they letting off, when are things changing. And this has become a value to me as a meteorologist, because I can tell you that when you see things, this isn't the first storm to do it. Every storm before it has done similar things. So when we rock back, I want to go back to when the area of rotation was near LaGrange. And what you're going to see here is the greens and reds, and right here, let's stop. The two cores of these, the brightest, were far apart. And now let's start to move closer and closer to the now. And what you're going to start to notice is these cores of the strongest winds are getting closer and closer and closer together, to the point now where they are right on top of each other. Rick, I'm concerned we may have a tornado forming here, and let's put a look at, we've got a tornado on the ground, guys. Tornado on the ground now heading towards Newcastle. There is a confirmed tornado on this. I don't care if the tornado weather service has a tornado confirmed on it. This is a tornado touchdown. Rick, let's just go through. I just want to make sure we're being thorough. Let's look at reflectivity just to verify we're buried. Yes. Let's look at rotation just to verify. And let's go back over to correlation coefficient. So what is that? Why is that there? This is rain. The sea of pink is rain. Why is there a hole in it? There's a hole in it because all of the particles that the radar is seeing in the pink here are the same size. You're like, Mark, of course they are. It's raining. Why is the hole there? The hole's there because those particles are not the same size as rain. These are trees. These are roofs, these are shingles, these are families and lives that are being changed with tornadoes. And now it's heading towards, Rick, let's just rock it back and forward briefly. I just want to make sure on where this is going so I can give accurate. Watch this, you'll see the tornado form right here, and there it goes. So this looks like it's going to go towards Newcastle. Newcastle, Kentucky, Henry County. Look, guys, let's get to our safe spot. We know what to do. We know to prepare. We've seen semis blown over. We've seen a semi on top of vehicles. You heard Hayden's story. Her husband's safe because he took action. Take action. Take action if you're in Henry County. If you're near Newcastle, you go into the center part of your house. You keep away from the windows in the house, because if the windows burst, that glass is on you. That doesn't go well with us. You keep away from windows, you get into the lower structure. If you can get underneath the table, you protect yourself. And it looks like it's lofting even more debris as this is getting more and more blue. Newcastle, you've got 6 minutes until there's potentially a tornado. There's a tornado right now, 6 miles away from you. It's heading in your direction. Let's get you and your kids into a safe spot. Let's make sure we protect ourselves, and let's make sure that we don't let the tornado take anything that is too important for us. We can replace our homes. We cannot replace our lives. So in Newcastle, you've now got about 5 minutes until a tornado's in your area. Safe spot, middle of the house, keep away from windows. Rick, I just would like to look at the rotation here to see if it's coming up or going down. There's the rotation. It is significant. Rick, I'm going to look across this, and I'm guessing we've got one higher gate here, and we've got a couple here. I'm going to guess we're looking at somewhere near 80 knots of rotation.
We've got 33 on one side.
Okay.
And 43-ish on the other.
33 and 43 goes up to 76. 76 is about 80 knots times 1.15.
And it just went up.
Okay, we got a tornado moving into Newcastle. 3 minutes.
48
okay.
And 52 now.
Now we've got a tornado that's producing about 120 mile-an-hour winds. This is an EF2 tornado. This is a strong tornado. It is intensifying, and it's moving right towards you, Newcastle. Your life is in danger right now. You take protective action. You go into the center part of the house. You protect yourself. You clean up this weekend. You go outside with your camera. You may not be here this weekend. It's that serious. I don't like to ratchet up unless we have to ratchet up. And we have to ratchet up. It looks like the Weather Service is caught up on this one, Rick.
Yep, they observed.
Okay. And Rick, it looks like they're going long stream.
They're down the line as well, you're right. They're really being proactive about this one.
So this means the Weather Service, as us, feel like a long track tornado is underway. This is a strong, long track tornado. It's your life. It's just your life, and the decisions you make right now in Newcastle affect what the course of your life will be moving forward. It's that serious. It is that serious. We have a tornado on the ground that is doing damage near Newcastle, and you can see the Weather Service, Rick, kind of explain this. Why would you issue a tornado warning so far away when the tornado is still a huge distance away from the end of that initial tornado warning? What's the purpose? What is the strategy the Weather Service is now employing?
Well, they're obviously seeing the fact that there's debris being lofted, and to get people to take action, they are giving this warning far in advance, so that way you have no excuse. You know it's on the ground. You know it's doing damage, and that's why the Weather Service has put areas like Owenton inside the confirmed tornado, because on the south side, there's nothing. There's nada. There are no storms showing up in Christiansburg and Shelbyville through Harrisonburg. So there is plenty of fuel to feed on, and nothing is out there to interrupt this storm. Now, I don't want to downplay what's happening right now, but I also have to address the fact that in Louisville, that we have storms that are ongoing in the city, West End in particular, from Portland through Russell, down through Rubbertown, Chickasaw, Shively, on the northern edge of PRP. We have a thunderstorm, which is not severe.
But let's look in there, Rick.
Let's just make sure we don't see any sort of wind. So I'm going to actually use the analyst just to make sure
and just so you guys know, what Rick is doing is what we always do. And you guys can see, if you watch us regularly, we're thorough. We are going to make sure that we're not just guessing at it. We're really detecting what you see. Rick, you're looking inside that thunderstorm. Sure, I think some 40, 45s are possible moving through Shively. Rick called it out. Chickasaw neighborhood, Rubbertown right now, the Russell neighborhood, moving towards Audubon Park, PRP, Valley Station, ultimately Heritage Creek. This is going to go through Okolona, the airport. We'll move north through U of L campus, and then towards downtown. I see 40, 45 mile-an-hour winds. I don't see what's occurring elsewhere. But when we go back over to radar here, the reality still is, Rick, there's a hook on that storm that is moving right along the Waterston Expressway.
Right.
And you and I have dealt with this today multiple times. We've seen it where it looked inconspicuous, and then it went downhill quickly. And so we need to continue to monitor that area really, really closely. There are some signals of rotation on that storm moving through Shively. There's no warning on it right now. And downtown, Rick, you can kind of hear it. I mean, it's pouring. It's pouring.
Yeah.
So Louisville, as Rick said, we want to cover you guys. We want you to know what to expect. And it's worth putting a storm track on this one so that we can track it across the county. It's not severe right now. But you know, the reality of all of this is a lot of people are wondering what's going on. And in the end, that is our job. So 11 minutes from now in Okolona, 14 minutes from now Newburgh, the Highview area 19 minutes from now, and Jeffersontown 26 minutes. So J-Town, you've got 26 minutes until this storm is on top of you. Is this the only storm that's going to be affecting Louisville? No, there's more, and there's a core right now near West Point. All of this we will be watching. But what is the most important, the most pressing, the most dangerous right now is a tornado that conceivably is on top of Newcastle. Rick, I think maybe we're seeing a little bit of a positive signal here. Let's go back, and I want to rock back just 2 frames and show you what we had versus where we are. So you're looking at potentially a tornado right now hitting Newcastle, Kentucky, and we're going to move this back 2 scans and see what the rotation looked like. Greens, reds on top of each other. What this is called in science is gate-to-gate shear. So if these high velocity values are on top of each other, the rotation's really tight. Now we're going to move it forward, and we're going to move it right into Newcastle, and what you're going to see is, and let's zoom in a little bit, but we're seeing the greens and the reds separate a little bit. Now what I want to do is look at this in terms of the debris. Is it worse or better? We're going to rock it back 2 scans. And what you're going to see here is a tornado, a very obvious tornado. And we're going to roll this right now into Newcastle. And what you see is it doesn't show the same signature. I'm not saying there's not a tornado on the ground right now because there's still debris. I think at minimum you're seeing debris falling in Newcastle right now. You know, when you have to say something like that, it's not something we enjoy. But the rotation over Newcastle, it's right on top of Newcastle. If the trends continue, we're probably seeing an occlusion of the storm. Now, this is what is a storm that has produced at least 2 tornadoes in our area, at least 2. Maybe more. Obviously, the Weather Service would get out there, and they're going to be surveying it. And I got to tell you, tomorrow's the anniversary of the April 3rd event. Just so you know, the Weather Service has obviously put a lot of time into the 1974 remembrance, and they're going to be out doing damage surveys after they do 1974 remembrance stuff. So this is still something, and Rick, I want to put rotation on here because whatever this is came out of Newcastle now. The rotation is getting a little bit more broad, a little bit wider, maybe not as deep of a signal. Is this producing a tornado? I don't think we can say one way or another for sure right now, Rick. But what I think we can definitively say is it looks like it's not the intensity of what it once was.
Yes.
We're starting to see rain that is getting south of there. A lot of times what that does is choke off the updraft base. Thunderstorms, as Rick noted, like warm air. That's the fuel. If you get rain, cool, ahead of that, it can weaken it. But this also means that we're going to have to really, really closely watch what's behind it. Because if what's behind it can get into that area, what can happen is that can intensify as well, which means the storm near Louisville that's coming down the Waterson Expressway right now may be the one that's primed to get the most fuel right now.
Right, and so that's why we're keeping an eye on every single storm that poses a threat. Trust me, we're not going to let you down here. Right now, we have some smaller hail which is showing up. This is in downtown Louisville, so areas like Logan Street, Jackson Street, 4th Street Live. You're looking at potential maybe some half-inch to inch hail coming down. Again, we're not seeing any severe storms in the metro, just to clarify, but the rainfall is coming down very heavy. We now have the strongest core, which has moved out of the west end. It's now basically up and down I-65 and east in areas like St. Matthews through the Highlands into, let's say, Parkway, the Village area. This is all inside the Waterson, this core of the strongest storm, and there's still that little kink on it, so we have to watch this one for some potential rotation. And Mark, you have some new video you're looking at?
Yeah, so I'm looking right now at a prospect where the tornado touched down earlier, and there's a lot of trees down. From the shot that I have, I'm not able to see if there's any structural damage, but at least at minimum, what I'm seeing is that there are a lot of trees that are damaged. So, we know that we've had a tornado that moved through Metro Louisville. And one of the things we said last night is let's hope that we do not get sunshine today. We did, and it's problematic. We've got hail now in Metro Louisville. Old Louisville just reported some small half-inch size hail. Rick, you can see that on Storm View 3D. So that small hail right now just moved that is in Old Louisville, basically. So that hail core is going to go down 64. So that would be in St. Matthews around 4 to 5 minutes from now. And then you can see also along Bardstown Road there. So that is moving and crossing Bardstown Road. This is going to be basically near Baxter is where we're kind of looking at that. So it doesn't look like huge hail, but it does look like hail that's going to be rolling its way down 64 towards St. Matthews. I'm going to move the 800 building camera just so we can get that thing aimed towards the east and look into this core. But we're getting multiple hail reports now in Louisville, and that's getting bigger. And this also tells us two things, just so we're clear. Number one, the storm's intensifying, which we have seen and which concerns us and worries us. But now we have hail that's basically near the tunnels along 64 heading towards St. Matthews.
Right, this is Keats Ave, Mark, Jane Street. If you live along these roads, this is Bailey Ave. Hopefully your car is in a safe place and not exposed to this. Let's say Peterson Avenue also getting some of that larger hail. This is going to go east, so this is going to probably end up between St. Matt's and Rolling Fields, the strongest hail core. So we actually have some video of hail by the tunnels. Okay, there we go. So there are the tunnels. You can see some of the hail. Looks like.
Yeah, you can definitely see that's hail falling.
Yeah, I would not want to be driving in that at all.
By the way, don't be that guy that stops on the highway because there's hail falling and then the car behind you crashes into you. I'm not saying I want to drive in hail because nobody does. It's never, ever, ever fun. But just be aware that you need to keep moving along. You must keep moving along. This is a very telling graphic. I'm going to show you guys power outages because we have seen a distinct uptick in Louisville and Oldham County. Oldham County, you've been hit by a tornado. Your power outages are now at 3,600, 3,595 in Oldham County, 2,516 in Louisville without power. Obviously much less in Louisville than Oldham County. Oldham County clearly has been hit by a tornado.
Right, and just so you know, tomorrow, I mean, not to take away from this, but temperatures are going to be in the 40s.
I know, it's crazy.
So people who don't have power, I know crews are going to be working around the clock trying to get people back up and running with the lights on, but tomorrow, you're probably going to have your furnace on. That's the kind of cold air that's moving in, the snap that comes in behind it.
I'm just going to say, Rick, I let it get up to 77 degrees in my house today, knowing full well it was going to get colder that way. I didn't have to turn
We're going to go in this direction.
We're not going in this direction, but team, hold out. Let me show you 42 and Covered Bridge Road. And this is Rod, who is this that's out here? Is this one of our photogs? So we're just getting, okay, Ariana Shuko's out there getting us some of the video. And you could see there's obviously a large limb down and there's tree limbs, at least branches that are in the road. This is Covered Bridge Road in Prospect. And this is one of what we're going to see much more of that's occurring. And you just know that this is your home, because you look around our studio right now and you have people that are just stopped and that are going over to the camera and to the screen to look at what you're seeing. We have damage, guys. You can see what looks like a power pole that is clearly snapped. This is obviously contributing to power outages there. And I don't know if we have a reporter here that we can. So has Conroy been able to talk to anybody in this area? And if he has not, I'd like to come back to him if we can, and so people can report what they're seeing. But you can see this is Covered Bridge Road. Can I talk to Conroy? Did we know if he's on mic yet? So what we're going to... Okay, so live pictures for now, but we've got our Conroy Deluche that's on scene. And again, I just want to say this to all of our news crews. We cover weather. Obviously, we have to cover what's happening, and it's our goal to make sure that you know what to expect. I can tell you as somebody that has worked at television stations where it's not always weather being and news being on the same page. But it's been incredibly valuable for us to have our crews out there. Now, our Richard Essex is in southern Indiana, and Richard is in an area that we've been talking about where we've had some semis that were blown over. And I want to kind of get a sense from Richard of what he's seeing out there, because we know that we've had some damage occur. We know that in southern Indiana, we know that a tornado moved through just north of I-265, just north of the East End Bridge. And we know that it blew over some tractor trailers, and even one was on a car. And Richard is in this area, and he's looking at what he's seeing. Richard, tell us what you've got.
Well, there are 3 down semis right in the middle of the interstate. Well, there's one right here behind me. I've never been this close to a semi that was overturned by weather. There's another one about 100 yards down. Then you can see on top of the overpass on International Drive, a 3rd semi that's down. And police tell us that there was a 5-car accident at the intersection right over here. You can see the police car that's getting ready to pull away. There's a car that was upside down that looks like they're getting ready to put that one onto a wrecker.
Good, thank you.
But there's a car that was partially that semi that's about 100 yards down. A car was underneath that partially, but they were able to get that car pulled out. We've seen a number of ambulances around here, so that we don't know if anybody was injured or how many people were injured or if it was even worse than that. But we've seen a lot of ambulances leave this area in quite a hurry. We know that most of the interstate is shut down, 264 in both directions, shut down. They're letting the traffic that had backed up in this area get through, but they're not letting anybody go much further than this. It was quite a mess. I mean, of all my years of doing this, I've never seen such a mess like this, with 3 semis blown over so quickly and shutting down the interstate. Back to you guys in the studio.
So appreciate Richard out there. Richard is obviously seeing some of the scenes that we've been reporting about. For us as meteorologists, it is somewhat disheartening sometimes to see this stuff happen, but we know that this was today. We knew that today had the potential to be damaging tornado scenario, and unfortunately that's what we are seeing. If we can, I want to see if we're going to be able to get Conroy, but I want to go back to where our tornado warned storm is, because we still have a storm with a tornado warning on it, and I'm going to show you where that is. So I'm going to put a scope on this so we can kind of look at the rotation within the storm. This gives us the ability to tell, is there something in there that really concerns us? Do I have a signal right now that screams tornado on this storm? So what I'm going to do is go over to what we call Storm View 3D. You guys have been watching this a lot with us today. Storm View 3D is our workhorse. It allows us to see within the storm rotation. So I'm going to roll you back a couple of scans so you can get a sense of what was occurring in terms of rotation versus what is occurring right now. And you can see as this storm has moved by the Newcastle area, it was a very intense area of rotation that was moving into Newcastle. I believe that's probably going to be somewhere around maybe high-end EF1 to EF2 tornado. You could see as it pulled away, that area of rotation has become more and more diffuse. It is certainly not the area of rotation it was. Beyond that, we don't have one of those signals in there where the area of rotation would be near the Gratz area that is screaming that we have a tornado on the ground. So the area of rotation is right now just to the south of Gratz, making its march off to the east. It'll ultimately move out of Henry County. And once that gets out of Henry County, understand that we will no longer have a warning that's in effect for a tornado warning for our area. But that said, I think that we're probably going to stay with this for a little while, even if we don't have a tornado warning in effect for Metro Louisville. And I will tell you, or for our viewing area, partially because I think it's really important that we still have these storms ongoing and continuing to cause some problems within our area. So we had a storm that we know produced a tornado. We have power outages now that extend from Jeff through around Prospect and that went into Oldham County. And our Conroy Deluche has been out in the Prospect area, kind of getting a sense of what's going on. And Conroy, you can't really get the sense from just a camera. What do you see?
Oh. Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So we're out here at Covered Bridge Road near Highway 42. Sorry, it's very loud out here because cars are moving back and forth. It's still raining. Let us show you what we've got going on behind us right now. This is Covered Bridge Road in Prospect, where if you need landmarks, we're right by the Prospect Food Mart where the power is also out. And you can see the trees are down on this road. There are utility poles that are snapped. And it looks way worse than it does on the, it looks way worse from here than it does on the other side of the hill, fortunately. I did walk up there just a little bit ago to talk to a couple of neighbors. They said that all they heard was a loud boom. They knew the storm was coming, but they were just working, plugging away when all of a sudden there was a loud boom outside. And as we were driving on 42 toward Prospect just after things touched down, there were trees down everywhere, both sides of us, left and right. We're talking gigantic, at least 30 feet tall trees, probably stood for decades, withstood a number of storms over the years, but this was a powerful punch we're seeing out here. Fortunately, on this road, and once again, this is Covered Bridge Road, we've just really seen a fence down for 1 yard and then another. Trees are right in front of his front door. But out here, we're not seeing too much damage directly where we are, but the power is out. The Prospect Food Mart, I walked over there just before our live shot, and we were talking to a couple people who were working there at the time, and they said that, you know, their car window was blown out, the power went out, but everybody's okay. They're just wondering when can they reopen, and a lot of people are driving through trying to get gas, but, you know, right now things are a little bit tougher out here, and this car is gonna have to turn around. We have seen a couple of cars drive over these lines. We highly don't recommend that. That is not just my advice, that is from LG&E, that is from other utility companies, because they need to come through here and do the work themselves to make sure that roads are passable, that roads are safe. And fortunately, they did just turn around. So we're seeing a lot of trees down here in the Prospect area, some near homes, a lot on the roads. But so far, from where we are, it doesn't look like anything significant was damaged, but again, we've not made it any further than this toward the Shelby County line. So this is where things stand right now, and we're going to see what else we can find.
And that's our Conroy Delush reporting out of the Prospect area. Conroy, take a look around the area. Let us know what you continue to see. We appreciate you getting out there to let everybody know what has occurred. 2,913 people without power here in Oldham County, 2,563 without power in the metro Louisville area. We still have storms. We've got new warnings now to get you caught up on. And Rick DeLuca, we now have a new severe thunderstorm warning, and it's an area that was hit by severe weather already. Henry, Oldham, Shelby, and Trimble County severe thunderstorm warning. And Rick, this storm is going through an area where we've already been hit. And also, it's probably a little bit further south, which means it has access to more fuel.
And that's why we are watching this storm like a hawk. So now you are talking about eastern portions of Jefferson County, Henry, Oldham, Shelby, and Trimble County underneath a severe thunderstorm warning. Quick, important note, this one does not have a tornado possible tag. Does that mean we can't see one? Absolutely not. There's still the potential for some spin-ups here. You can see the main line, some gusty winds tracking off to the east, areas like Chestnut Grove, Simpsonville. This is right around 64. So we saw that storm with the intense hail right around the tunnels around Grinstead. Now that's moved off to the east as we track this storm to the north and east around 40, 45 miles an hour. That means it will be in Newcastle in 9. Eminence in 17 minutes, Pleasureville in 30, and if it can hold together, areas like Owenton in about, let's say, 39 to 42 minutes or so. There's very heavy rain, there's a lot of lightning, and the main two hazards are some wind gusts to around 60 and some quarter-size hail. So what you do, you reach in your pocket, you pull out a quarter. So that's an inch in diameter. Now, we've seen some larger hail today, but most spots have seen quarter-size hail, which can do some damage. So please, if you are in these locations, you need to be inside, away from the windows. It's not smart to go outside and look at these storms. I know they can be fascinating. Right here's where we have a tiny little area of a hail core, and you know that by the lightning. It's definitely picked up around the Beckley area, so that's Arnold Palmer Boulevard, probably seeing some hail with that tracking east along 60. You should be ready in Simpsonville, Todd's Point, and Chestnut Grove as the storm continues. Mark, you have some new information over there in the Weather Center?
Yeah, I'm just getting a report here that there's a partial house collapse on Charlock Court on the Oldham side of Prospect. 2 people in the basement when it occurred. Fire and EMS are just getting on the scene. Also just got a report that a roof has been removed from a residence on Chelsea Meadow Court near LaGrange. So news, I'm going to forward this, Rod. I'm going to send this over to you so you have this information. But we have a roof that's been removed from a residence on Chelsea Meadow Court near LaGrange. We have a partial house collapse on Charlock Court on the Oldham side of Prospect. 2 people in the basement when it occurred. You know what? I know it hurts to kind of hear that people could be trapped in there, but they're in the basement. They did the right thing, and hopefully that that making the positive choice hopefully means a great outcome out of this. Thunderstorms continue here through Metro Louisville on what has been a busy day across our area. Rick, I'm just going to take control briefly of Storm View HD. You know, I just want to speak to what's occurring here, because I think that it's important beyond just Metro Louisville, beyond the tornado warning, all of this, what's happening and what does this mean moving forward. And I'm going to take a walk over to the weather wall here, because I want to show our radar and speak to some of the concepts that we're starting to see evolve and what this means for severe weather moving forward. So what you're going to notice is the northern portion of the line on the eastern end, it does not have any block towards it. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Trajectory air is coming out of Lexington, West Liberty, Jackson, and there's no thunderstorms there. There are thunderstorms now that are south of the area near Louisville, near Tell City. And so what this is going to do is block moisture transportation to the north. Normally what happens is one of these lines would become the dominant line and weaken the secondary line. So we've got an area of thunderstorms that's near Lebanon, Campbellsville, Greensburg, south of Columbia. What does this mean for the line that's towards the northwest? Well, you can see for yourself. It's not as strong near Valley Station, nor is it in Brandenburg, nor is it in Tell City, nor is it in Patesville. The area of the storms that are still the strongest are the ones that have been able to accelerate and get out ahead of that southern line. Eventually, the southern line would wreck the northern line and become the main show moving forward. We haven't fully reached that time, but we continue here with a storm. And Rick kind of focused on something that I think is quite interesting. What you're going to notice here is, number one, this is a supercell thunderstorm that's rotating north of Simpsonville. Rick, I'm going to talk about this for a moment, but I'm curious. This one should be coming right down Simpsonville. We should be able to see this if we have our Simpsonville camera aimed west. Rick's also showing just some of the things that we have seen. This was sent from Wayne, and you can see this was along I-265 in southern Indiana, where an 18-wheeler was flipped over. What we're going to do here, though, is look specifically on that storm that's moving down Simpsonville, towards Simpsonville. We've got our camera here that's at Cardinal Club, so it should have a bird's eye view of what's occurring. But there is Rick picked up on this. There's an increased area of lightning right on the hook of this thing. The hook is where there is rising. Where the air is rising is the updraft. The updraft is the lifeline of the storm. The updraft is, if there was a tornado, it would occur within this area. I want to look a little bit closer here and zoom in on this, the hook on this storm. That is the core of that, the rotation, is just a hint north of I-64, where there is a hail core right now. So here would be Shelbyville Road, here's Simpsonville, and the core of that is now making its march just north of Simpsonville. Here's Chestnut Grove. So Chestnut Grove, be aware, this thing is very likely to produce some hail, maybe the size of peas, maybe up to 1-inch size. That would probably be the most generous we could get out of this, but we still have thunderstorms moving through Metro Louisville, through St. Matthews, through J-Town, through Glen Mary, through Fern Creek. But our strongest thunderstorm right now within our viewing area is the severe thunderstorm that is moving through parts of Oldham, moved out basically a lot of this out of Jefferson County and the northern part of Shelby County. It's worth noting that there are no more tornado warnings that are in effect for our area. I do think that we're going to continue to stay with this for a little while, but what I do want to mention here is I would like at some point to continue for our news to update us on what's occurring around the area in terms of power outages and that type of thing. We're going to go over to our Simpsonville camera here so you can see the storm, and Rick has moved that camera so we kind of have a good view.
Yeah, production should take that one.
There you can see this is out of Simpsonville. So this is looking towards the northwest, and you can see this is the back edge of that, and you can see what kind of, it looks like a little bow from the Bow and Echo. That is the rear flank downdraft that's pulling around that. What that basically means is that some cold air wrapping around it. It can try to spin up in this kind of a scenario. So my message here is that we continue to be well aware that we've got a rotating thunderstorm that has a hail, that's producing hail. It's north of 64 by about 6 miles, making its march towards the east-northeast. Ultimately, it's going to move through the Chestnut Grove area, and then beyond that would move towards Bethlehem. But, you know, Newcastle, who's already been hit by a severe thunderstorm, and I don't know if that was tornadoing when it made its way into Newcastle. We do know it was for sure west of there, but Newcastle's getting lightning, more heavy rain. One of the things that I always think about that's really hard to kind of comprehend and digest out of this stuff is that some of these people may have a roof lifted off their home. And we've gotten some reports of that. And then you've got hail and rain that comes pouring in the house after that.
So you think the damage is done, but then you get rain on top of all your stuff that's left in there, and yeah, it just gets worse. So.
And for what it's worth, by the way, the storm that we're talking about produced 1-inch size hail that is basically south of Anchorage. That would be north of around Valhalla, Beckley Station Road, kind of in that area, produced 1-inch size hail, and may very well be doing that along the Jefferson and Oldham County line. So in Eminence, Kentucky, that's moving towards your area. Be aware it's probably about 18 minutes from you, but 1-inch size hail, which is large enough hail to cause some problems, is moving through your area. We are in what is a scenario where we've had tornadoes touch down within our area. We had radar confirmed tornadoes that did damage from basically near around Jeff that moved then through the Utica kind of like vicinity, crossed over the Ohio River just north of the East End Bridge, moved into Prospect. We have reports of a roof that's removed from a home on the northern side of Prospect, and we have some reports of damage that has been done in Oldham County to homes. Beyond that, we know that a storm moved into Henry County that was producing a tornado that was west of Newcastle. And where we stand right now, Rick, is we've got rain and thunderstorms. I hate to even think about it like this, but March didn't have a lot of rain. We need rain, you know. I wish it wasn't coming at the expense of severe weather, but Metro Louisville's getting a dousing of rain.
A good drink of water, which we needed, but unfortunately coming with a price tag, as we said. I mean, Mark said yesterday, the atmosphere is volatile. I mean, there's just so much energy in it, but now in Louisville, that energy has been taken away. Rain-cooled air coming down in the metro. So even though you're hearing the rumbles of thunder and Shively through PRP back out through Portland, this is not a severe thunderstorm, plain old thunderstorm. But if you look to the eastern side of the county, from Middletown through Jeffersontown into Asheville, there's a tiny bowing segment. And at the apex of that bow is where you would see the strongest winds. So that's sandwiched right between Jeffersontown and Middletown, approaching Simpsonville. While you are not under the severe thunderstorm warning or on the brink of it, this is going to continue its journey off to the east. So watch out for winds 60 miles per hour, if not greater. Simpsonville 15, Chestnut Grove 23, Bellevue 37, and Pleasureville. This could still pack a punch with 40 minutes or so with some of those stronger winds. So this is now crossing over Bardstown Road. I just want to give you a quick green light in parts of the area. If you're up here in southern Indiana, the severe threat quickly dwindling now, and obviously we're going to keep an eye along and south of this line for more strong to severe storms, which we now have. So Grayson County, Short Creek, Horse Branch, Caneyville, severe thunderstorm warning includes Breckenridge, Grayson, and Ohio counties. This until 6 o'clock Central for 1-inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. And now we have a new tornado warning. This is just outside of the area for Allen, Barron, and Warren County. But that's Bowling Green right now, and you can see that is a lone supercell again, which you've been concerned about. It's not so much the main lines, it's these individual cells that have the capacity to tap into what's available in the atmosphere. So we're going to watch the storm moving out of Bowling Green, approaching Hart County. So now Hart County, time to start thinking ahead. What would you do if a tornado warning is issued for your area? So I really want you to be proactive in this sort of scenario. We are not done across our Kentucky counties, Mark. We're going to watch these storms every step of the way, and we still have several hours to go.
And so what we have seen and what we know at this point is we have damage within our area. We have damage here in Jeffersonville, and Mayor Mike Moore is going to be able to join us here via phone. Number one, I want to tell him that I appreciate him making the time because I know that there's a lot going on. But Mayor Moore, number one, we've never talked on the phone, so I hope you're doing well. What can you tell us that you have seen, Mayor Moore, in Jeffersonville? We know that an area of rotation moved across your area. What are you getting for reports in terms of damage thus far?
Well, I was actually watching DRB when everything came through, and there's multiple areas where we've got damage. I just pulled up to the Steeplechase neighborhood. We've got crews here trying to clear things, but obviously the east end of the city around Steeplechase, Boulder Creek, Brook Hollow, and I'm told some areas around Old Stoner, some damage. Obviously everybody has seen the news with the 265 with the overturned semis. And, you know, it looks like when he crossed the river coming over into the Jeff Utica area, the neighborhoods that are out here on our east end of the city got walloped pretty good. I've not had any details of any injuries yet. I'm not saying there's not. I've just not had that yet. But we have multiple crews out. Everybody's pulling overtime right now, and we're going to make sure things are cleaned up and safe. But I would not encourage anybody to get out in their car and drive around. But unfortunately, it looks like everybody's doing that. There's quite a bit of traffic out in this area. So, you know, we will learn more as the evening goes along. I've talked with my police chief and my fire chief, and they were a few minutes ago at the 265 interstate, and we're just trying to help wherever we can, but obviously it hinders things a little bit when the traffic's around.
Mayor Moore, if I could ask you a question, in terms of some of those residential areas, do you know what type of damage that we're getting reports of? Are we talking about maybe shingles? Are we talking about siding? Or do we have any reports of maybe roofs, partial roofs, those types of things? Do we know if that's what we're hearing?
I have not gotten enough detail yet. I've not heard of structural damage. I am told, as I'm standing here at the edge of Sundancer right now, sitting in my car, I am told it didn't appear that there was structural damage, that it was more or less trees down, but I cannot confirm that right now. I'm about to walk up there here in just a minute.
Okay, we appreciate, number one, Mayor Moore. It's nice to finally meet you. We haven't actually chatted before, so I appreciate you making some time for us. And keep us in your thoughts as we move forward here. We'd love to talk to you again. And we continue to get reports of damage from across our area. Again, really appreciate Mayor Moore taking the time to speak with us. By the way, I just want to make sure that I'm on the 100% same page with Andy. Andy, the pictures we showed where we had some roof damage, this was am I correct, in Boulder Creek area? So Boulder Creek area, you can see it on the top there, which we know is just kind of where Richard Essex was. We know that this is just off to the north, so this will be just to the north of where the semis were blown over. What it appears basically from this shot is you can see that on the left side of that roof, part of it was destroyed. And I'm just going to go over to the weather wall because I want to quickly speak. I think that it's always important to analyze what you're looking at. I want to keep that picture up if we can, because I want to show you guys what we see and what has occurred here. I speak to this quite frequently about what's important when it comes to home structures. This roof was not completely lofted off of this house. What this means is there are straps on this roof, and those straps basically hold the A-frame of the roof to the structure of the home. The reason that's important is once that roof starts to lift, it can get peeled off and every wall will fall down. This is engineering when it comes to meteorology and how the two intersect. It's quite clear that it tore off part of this roof, but not the whole thing. And then you can see here what looks like shingles that are completely ripped off of this structure. So you can see, again, I'm glad to see this. This is why building codes exist. Building codes exist to protect you. When people cut corners on building codes, homes get destroyed when they don't have to be. A really well-built home can withstand an EF3 tornado. This is a fact based on science that we know. And again, very glad to see what is likely in this particular area, a home that had a roof that is likely strapped to the home and protected it from that roof being lofted off of that home. We need to still continue to watch storms that are moving across our area. I would say that my greatest concern right now is the storm going through Bowling Green, which could ultimately affect potentially Munfordville, but more likely going to affect parts of Greene and Adair County. Adair County kind of hangs a little bit lower in our viewing area than some of our other counties, and so it makes them sometimes susceptible to get storms that may not affect a huge portion of our area. But we need to be aware of potentially 60-mile-an-hour winds that are going to go into rural southern Breckenridge County, and then also coming up the western Kentucky Parkway towards Litchfield, 60-mile-an-hour winds and hail would be possible. This has been a long day. We have tornado damage in our area. I believe we would at least see maybe one of these that are probably going to be stronger than EF1. And Hayden, what is this that you're going to show me? You can come around, Hayden.
You guys, they're going to pull it up for you too and let you know where it is.
So by the way, when we're in active coverage, obviously things are happening and we're finding out on site.
So roof's gone, Oldham County, Chelsea Meadow Court. I'll let you hang on to that. There you go.
So there we have it on there, so you can.
Okay, so we've got one house there. I'm just going to go over again. You'll notice that the house on the right here has a peak in the front. The roof's been completely removed off that structure. One thing to note is this is a brick front home, not a full brick home, but you can see that the whole structure was able to withstand the tornado with the roof being lifted off. And again, you'll then notice behind this, we've got partial roof damage here. But again, the structure is standing well. I'm glad to see that. Shingles removed here. As far as closer, I just want to kind of look at the trees. This tree is still standing, which is good. You can see the tree in front of this house is laid down. So what likely happened is the tornado moved. The winds were blowing from the right here over that roof. It probably caught the edge of that roof, lofted the roof, completely removed it. And you can see that all of the damage is on. I don't have bearings on what exactly location, but you can see on this side of the structure is where we're generally looking at the roofs that are being removed. Again, continuing, you're looking at this live while I am. Trees are laid down here, and you can see the wind caught this portion again. It likely was wind coming in this direction. It lofted part of that roof and tore it away, and it probably what happened is the wind got underneath this garage and then started to rip it back out. This looks like a trampoline to me. And so this is in Oldham County. You can definitely clearly see that there's damage, and you can see here's a resident that's outside. There's you know, what I'm seeing here is we're probably looking at maybe EF1, maybe EF2 type of damage in this particular area, but this may not represent the entire path. So that one house on the right there, Rick, is definitely the one that captures your attention. And again, this is Meadow. What's the location one more time? Chelsea Meadow Court in Buckner. So you know what? I think I actually know. I know this community. I think. I think that's actually where one of my friends live. You know, I hope everybody's okay out there. You know, and I'm going to have to check in with my friends to make sure that they're okay as well. But you can see that. So, you know, I believe where this is I believe this is if you get off the Buckner exit and you go just a little bit north there. I think it's 426. There's a neighborhood in that area on the left. I think this is the neighborhood that we're looking at where there is damage. You know, this is traumatic. This is the hardest thing of what we do. You know, we're scientists. We're trained to deal with what science says and what we have in terms of storms. We're trained to analyze, but it's still hard to see that when you're looking at this and knowing that lives are changed. My hope is that we don't have any injuries. Mayor Moore told us earlier out of Jeffersonville he's not aware of any, and I'm just going to ask News, are we aware of any injuries that have occurred within our area or anything that's serious at this point?
They can check. I mean, on a positive note, the roof's gone. I mean, the structure itself did hold up. So let's point out the positives. Also, if we had maybe a couple more weeks behind us, we would have a lot more leaves on the trees, and they would have more surface area for the winds to capture, knock them down. So you're not seeing a ton of trees down, but obviously the homes took the brunt of this one with multiple roofs not only lift off but damaged. So again, the main homes are in decent shape. I really hope those people who live in that subdivision took the warning, went downstairs. It does look like those homes have basements, so they're on the lowest level and not upstairs in that top, because obviously the higher up you are in your house, right, the more danger you're in. So that really, I mean, looking at the image, you're right, it hurts. And we try to separate the emotion from the radar and the science of what we're seeing, but you know, at some point they intersect. And that's what you're seeing right here. I mean, Mark knows someone who potentially lives in that area. So to talk about that while still analyzing severe weather, I mean, there's an emotional side to this that's really hard to describe, and usually after the fact is kind of when we sit back and reflect on this. But I mean, these are tough days for everyone across the area, you know?
And so Boulder Creek, we've got another image that we're going to show you guys of more damage from the area here. This original one was from the Oldham County area. We have 2,930 without power in Louisville, 2,960 without power in Oldham County. You can see there. So this is very clearly the side of a roof that has been removed. Notice on the top there you can see some siding that's been ripped off the peak of the other roof. And then you can see on the right side, you have significant damage out of Jeffersonville on the roof there to the right. Obviously, you can see people are out and about trying to assess what's going on.
It's a tense situation there. You see people with their hands on their hip. I mean, you're just in disbelief as to what they're seeing.
And this is Brook Hollow Road. And you know, I understand the desire to go out and see, but I would just make a request. Please do not attempt to go to these areas. Please do not attempt to try to tourist and sightsee. There are people here that are needing help, and let's make sure that they can get help. But we obviously have damage across our area. Jeffersonville, you can see again that roof there, and the front center has been partially removed, but it does appear it was an anchored roof because the whole thing was not lofted. And then the wider perspective, just always like to see and get bearings on what we've got.
They look like fairly new structures as well.
They do look like fairly new structures, and hopefully that the people inside are okay. We don't have any reports of injuries right now. Our news team was continuing to look at that. Let's get back to what we have going on in our area. Rick, I'm going to head over to the weather wall. Let's assess what we've got going on because we continue here with warnings for our area. Severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect here for the northern part of Shelby, moving into Henry County. We do not have any tornado warnings in our area right now. This is a super positive, but you can see severe thunderstorm warning. You've got kind of near the Gratz area. Eminence and Newcastle, the storm's kind of breached your area. Defoe, that storm right now is near your area. So Monterey, be aware, you could see some winds up to 50, 60 miles an hour. And the storm did produce some small hail. Christiansburg through Shelbyville, coming down 64 right now. If you're traveling along 64, heading towards Frankfort, be aware. It's not severe right now, but thunderstorm moving through. So that rain, it continues in downtown Louisville. Some of the rain, obviously, in Prospect still is going to hamper efforts for those that are trying to recover. It's not completely done as there's a line behind that. We've got a thunderstorm right now that's moving towards the Cox's Creek area. This is not a storm that is severe at this point right now, but as many of our storms have shown, this has a little bit of an inflow notch in it, which means we need to watch it because you can get rotation within those thunderstorms. Rick puts a track on that, making it off to the east. This is 2 minutes from now in the Samuels area. This is 7 minutes from now in Cox's Creek. In the Wakefield area, 20 minutes from now, and 31 minutes from now in the Bloomfield area. Severe thunderstorms are moving across our southern counties, and so this is going to be a non-severe thunderstorm. But I know, E-Town, you're probably wondering, what does it mean for me? You'll notice that there's only one lightning strike on this one. So right now it's in the rural western part of Hardin County. It's going to be moving towards Longview, Radcliffe, and E-Town. Right now it's not severe. I hope it stays that way. But what we know about those storms is there is definitely a block that's occurring to the south with more thunderstorms that would decrease your fuel. These are important details to note in terms of can storms intensify. And then we've got our severe thunderstorm right now that's coming down basically just along and north of the Western Kentucky Parkway. So this right here is the Western Kentucky. You can see Heights Falls, which is in the northern part, rural part of Grayson County here. Horace Branch, this is moving down the Western Kentucky just north, and it's producing probably some 50 to 60 mile an hour winds. Longer range, obviously Bowling Green is a real legitimate concern here. This is not necessarily our viewing area, but it's still important to note that this particular storm, if it holds together, goes towards Glasgow, Center, yeah, then it could go towards Greensburg into the Columbia area. So we're going to need to watch this and everything that we have out there. I am grateful to report right now that ultimately it looks like we're starting to move towards the tail end of this particular event. But Rick, you know, I think this conceivably could be the event of the season. I mean, there's been a lot of damage within heavily populated areas.
I mean, seeing the damage in Jeffersonville, I mean, the images of those semis just seared into your brain of them being tipped over, several of them. I do just want to mention, obviously, that storm in Bowling Green. What's working in the favor of Greensburg and Campbellsville is that you have rain and storms right now. So hopefully that will take some of the energy away. But I mean, that storm by itself right now, just to the east of Bowling Green, still means business. So we're going to watch that one carefully. But yeah, Mark, I mean, this has been a wild day. April.
I mean, remember, this started this morning with Bryce and Hannah. We had 8 tornado warnings this morning.
Right. So this is wave number 2. I mean, so many people already dealt with damage this morning, and now we're doing this all over again, and also in fact impacting other parts of the area. So this is kind of a scenario where, you know, 1-2 punch all in the same day. Once we cool down, the severe weather goes away, and it's been this cycle. We warm up, a couple nice days, we get severe weather, and we cool back down. We warm up, severe weather, cool back down. So we've been really locked in this pattern around here lately, which is honestly just typical for this time of year. But could it play out again? I mean, spring is just sprung, so we still have ways to go. So obviously this is something we'll be watching in the coming weeks, but once it cools down, the severe threat goes away. We still have to watch our Kentucky counties this evening because we have ongoing warnings, Bowling Green under the tornado warning, and it's conceivable that we could see more warnings simply because the atmosphere down there is still unstable, and now the Weather Service is being proactive and trimming the tornado watch. So we can give you the green light, the thumbs up, if you're in Lawrence County, Washington, Scott, Jefferson, down through Crawford. The severe threat is done for you, okay? Deep breath, exhale, let it go. But obviously, if you are still under the tornado watch, you need to be weather aware. I would say in Louisville that threat is coming down as well, but obviously it's our southern community still in the crosshairs for some severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado possible tags, and maybe even tornado warnings. Mark, it has been a wild day, and now Henry County still remains under the severe thunderstorm warning, but that should also expire as well.
Yeah, so we really turn our attention towards Grayson County. So you know, by the way, we're going to stay on until 7:30 tonight as we continue with our severe weather event and continue to get reports of what has occurred within our area. What we know thus far is that the initial wave of thunderstorms this morning produced an EF1 tornado near Chaplin, Kentucky. That occurred early on in the initial line. That storm system also went on to produce an EF1 tornado in Anderson County. We know that we have at least two confirmed tornadoes basically from our area from this morning. What happened this afternoon and evening is we had thunderstorms that produced confirmed tornadoes via radar. We had spotter reports out of Jefferson County and Scott County early on that we had a tornado that was on the ground. This then escalated near Metro as we got a confirmed tornado that was then near the Jeffersonville area, made its march towards Utica, ultimately crossed over the Ohio River, and that made its way basically north of around the East End Bridge, moved into Prospect, did damage on the northern side of Prospect, and then ultimately moved into around the Buckner area in Oldham County. We had then another tornado that formed, this one in Henry County. This was also radar confirmed tornado that produced damage just to the west of Newcastle, and it appeared to lift just as it was approaching Newcastle. But Newcastle probably, just so you know, you may find debris in your neighborhood. And that was likely from what occurred. We still have 2,930 without power. All things considered, it's not crazy bad. I'm glad to say that. But Oldham County having more power outages than Louisville speaks very largely to the concept that Oldham County got hit pretty hard from this one, as we have damage being reported around Oldham County. 295 without power in Clark County, 285 in Floyd County. Those are numbers via Duke. Yes, some of these counties have multiple different power reporting areas and receive power from different locations. So some of the numbers, when you would to group everything together, could change a little bit. Radar right now continues to show just a sliver of eastern Henry County remains under a severe thunderstorm warning. That is for wind gusts to 60 miles an hour. And let me tell you something, my friend, it is a sliver of the county. This would include extreme eastern rural part of Henry County, near Lockport, near the Monterey area. We'll watch that storm. Metro Louisville, we're not done yet. There's a secondary line that still has to move in behind. Generally speaking, when something's coming after an initial area that's already seen rain and thunderstorms, your atmosphere will have cooled and it will mitigate severe potential. I'll show you as we look from Louisville, you can see some of those storms off to the east. We'll look at the temperature. It's likely cooled. Yes, we were 78 pre-storm. We're 64 post-storm. What that means is that line behind there is not going to be able to do damage. The atmosphere has been worked over. You can see we continue where the atmosphere has not been worked over. We have thunderstorms right now that are approaching Caneyville, Short Creek. I'm going to take a look from our Elizabethtown camera because we can have a view, and you can see looking west out of Elizabethtown, that is that thunderstorm that's just west of you. We've got a camera on it. We're keeping an eye on that one as well. And then the storm near Bowling Green is one of our concerned storms. It does show rotation. My sense is that the rotation probably stayed south of Bowling Green, which would be good. Hopefully Bowling Green has not been hit. Honestly, Bowling Green does not need any more after what occurred in 2021. But that rotation area moving towards Glasgow, if that holds together, let me say that one more time. If that holds together, we would need to watch within our viewing area near Columbia. Wider perspective showing everything that we've got going on in our area right now continues to show that there is an area of storms that has gotten out ahead, and some are now going severe in far eastern Kentucky. Rick, this is a positive sign. It means that it's going to somewhat work to block some of the moisture transportation to the north.
We talked about the two scenarios, and obviously that wave took longer to form, which allowed all that moisture and that instability to pool ahead of the front, and that's why we saw the severe weather today. But since this is now taking over, it's going to cut off some of the fuel. So this should hopefully allow that secondary line to not be as intense, but I still think that corridor from Litchfield, E-Town through Bardstown, Willisburg, Litchfield, LaRue County in particular, you have not been worked over. So we're still going to eye that particular corridor very carefully over the next couple hours. Until we get those storms through, you have to be on guard.
And so it makes sense to kind of look at temperatures based on what Rick is noting here. And partially I mentioned that because the temperatures here, it's going to be critically important to note. If we've cooled, once you've cooled off, remember we got all the way to around 78 today, which ballooned that fuel. So once we can start the cool down process, that's important because basically that would then take away some of that fuel. So I'm going to take a look at some of the current temperatures around the area. So you'll notice that the airport's definitely cool, but that's interesting. You'll notice it still hasn't really happened everywhere. E-Town's still at 73. That's something we need to note. Litchfield 74, where there is a severe storm. But Rick, we've worked over the atmosphere a little bit in Springfield, Kentucky, in Campbellsville, and in Munfordville as those temperatures have cooled. That's all positive. That means that we won't have as much fuel to work with. And then the wider perspective shows the cold that's going to be coming down. We haven't had a chance really to show a 7-day forecast today because it's been crazy. But the insanity of this whole thing is that tomorrow we're going to cool down notably. We could see some small hail producers. And then tomorrow night, make sure today is Tuesday. It's been busy. Tomorrow's Wednesday, Thursday. We may be able to see some snow showers working their way back into the area.
Feels like a Friday, doesn't it?
I don't know what it feels like anymore.
Okay.
So we've got a live view out of Jeffersonville, and Katrina is there. Katrina, we talked about 3 weeks ago on March 14th when you were rolling into Milton, and in a 3-week period now, you are on another area seeing damage that is very clearly tornado damage. Explain to us, what does it look like? You're on the ground, you have a perspective that we just can't get.
Well, you guys, thankfully this isn't as bad as what we saw a couple weeks ago when we were over in Milton, Kentucky. But like you said, we are here in Jeffersonville on Sundancer Drive, and you'll kind of just walk along with us. You'll see there's already neighbors out here kind of helping each other clean up the damage. Looks like a lot of downed trees in the area. And you can see there's already, neighbors out here helping, sweeping, cleaning up. See if we want to go. I'm with photojournalist Zebanique Petties. It looks like there's some roof damage to some of the houses, missing a few shingles. But like I said, not as bad as what we saw just a few weeks ago here in Milton, Kentucky. But nevertheless, still a lot to clean up. I mean, just look at the size of this tree here. I'm about 5'6" for reference, and this tree is completely knocked down, blocking the road here on Sundancer Drive. So crews are out here cleaning this one up, and I'm just seeing this for the first time, so kind of follow along with me here. And there's a tree over there, completely uprooted, past where those people are talking. So we're just gonna kind of get out of the way, make sure we're not in too many people's way as everyone's out here trying to clean up. But a lot of down trees, a lot of shingles that neighbors are out helping each other clean up and just get everything back together right now. So we'll take you guys back in the studio as we kind of keep assessing the damage of what we're seeing around here in Jeffersonville.
Katrina, we appreciate that. And Rick, it's that sound.
The chainsaws.
I mean, this is something that we hear a lot after events. The one thing that always encourages me about events like this is you see your neighbor that, is like, hey, I got a chainsaw. He doesn't, he just comes over and helps. You've got the neighbor that's like, checking on their friends and family that are around the area. I mean, it brings out the heart of a community. I mean, what really is at the soul of the community? And it just is always encouraging to see that in these difficult times that neighbors are out there helping neighbors.
You saw the two hug. I mean, and of all the chaos and of all the damage, when you see those two neighbors hug, like, you're okay. You're okay.
And that's the only thing that matters.
I mean, that's just the most beautiful thing I've seen, despite all the destruction and damage around it. I mean, just, that's the one thing, the light at the end of the tunnel, that you're going through this together, and that's sort of the bottom line. And that's why, we take our jobs very seriously to get you through these storms, because, this is our community. We're here to serve you. We're here to make sure you are safe and sound from start to finish. And I mean, just look at the shot in Jeffersonville. That is a big tree. I mean, Granted, it does look like it's one of those older trees. There seems to be a little bit of rot going on, but it does appear as though that's a massive tree that came down. You see people working together. I mean, this is just an amazing sight to see amongst all the chaos and the damage going on. And they're working fast. I mean, those crews, this just happened hardly an hour ago.
And there's going to be a lot of work here. I mean, this is not something that you can clean up in a day.
No way.
There's going to be a lot of power outages that occur. Just if you have any friends that have been affected by this, remember it is going to get really cold tomorrow in our area. So be aware of that. And if they need any help, just let them know that they can come over if they need some heat, just to keep things warm. But you can see that we've got a lot of damage out there. Appreciate everybody that's willing to help. I would also ask you not to flood areas that are damaged because you can cause traffic jams. If you're part of the rescue and cleanup crews, obviously that doesn't apply to you. But we've got a lot of reports of damage here in our area. Boulder Ridge just got a report that is just shy of the East End Bridge, got hit pretty hard. And we've got a lot of reports out of a lot of different locations. Chris Turner is somebody I've worked with now for about 20 years. And Chris is one of our guys that behind the scenes, if you ever notice somebody grabbing paper and handing it off, Chris works extensively behind the scene and hand it off to Rick. Some of what we know, what's going on around our area. Rick, what has Chris been able to gather in terms of some of the damage, some of what we know that's out there?
Right, so first props to Chris for always handing us so much great information, but this came from the mayor of Prospect, so Doug Farnsley. We spoke to him, and he knows specifically now of 4 to 5 homes that have been damaged in the city. There are a lot of trees down, and obviously with that, the power's out. So also the Oldham, no injuries. I guess that's the most important part, no injuries. I mean, it's crazy that we're seeing so many reports of no injuries around the area.
It's encouraging as somebody that issues warnings and is part of this. You know, you guys are the ones that make the decision. All we do is tell you when we think that you need to take action. In the end of the day, you have to make a decision that's best for you. We try to ratchet up the intensity when it is necessary, and it was
needed
required.
In Prospect, yeah. And from Oldham County EMA Director Zach Wilt said damage is centered around Crestwood, northern Oldham County, scattered damage reports throughout the county. But again, the main takeaway, no injuries reported at that point.
And you know that name?
I know that name very well, as do you.
So Zach Wilt is Officer Nick Wilt's brother. Zach Wilt is the EMA director in Oldham County. He's got to spend some time with him just a couple days ago. Zach's a really good guy. And Zach is taking care of those in Oldham County and making sure that people are safe, and we appreciate him taking some time to let us know. Rick, we also have some information about power outages.
Yeah, and obviously those are in the thousands in Jefferson, Oldham County. LG&E shows more than 58 customers without power. We had that map to update that. Duke not seeing quite as many, but obviously as you look at this live image right now, I mean, there's a lot of rebuilding that has to be done. And we're talking about early April. Tornado season really peaks April, May around this area. So this is something that unfortunately may not be the last time. But like you were talking about, I mean, the parameters that we saw setting up today, the supercell composites, the SIG TORs, these are all things that we look at to help determine how bad it could be. I know bad's kind of a loose term. Some people say, is it going to be bad out today? You know, it depends on where you live. If you live in Jeffersonville, if you live in Prospect, today was bad, but in other areas, like, you know, let's say if you're in the Highlands and it wasn't so bad, people still had power. You know, you had a thunderstorm, which was not severe, roll through. The same applies to South Louisville. So really that depends on where you are. And when it comes to these thunderstorms, I think people tend to forget damage is localized.
Absolutely.
You have hail, you have winds, you have tornadoes, and that affects certain communities. And some say, well, all I got was a plain old thunderstorm. Sure, but then you have images of other people, you know, picking up trees, their roof's gone. So you really have to be sympathetic toward everyone's situation. And if you didn't see damage or experience damage at your house, consider yourself blessed and lucky that your friends and family are all safe now, because there are a lot of people out there who are struggling to pick up the pieces, Mark.
And we got a little bit of a nudge there. Floyd County is now up to 1,241 without power. We've really seen no change here in Louisville, but Oldham County continues to move upward in terms of power outages. It's not necessarily from additional storms. Remember, there may be trees that are still on power lines that they may be trying to get taken down. And so we're going to see how that continues to unfold. It has been very helpful through this that we've been able to get some information from a lot around our area. As it stands right now, we do not have any warnings that are in effect for our viewing area. We do not have any warnings in effect. The tornado warning that was in effect near Bowling Green, I'm glad to say that's been lifted. The severe thunderstorm warning that was in effect for the southern part of Breckinridge County into the Grayson County area is now no longer, and we have some thunderstorms that are moving through. A lot of this is producing beneficial rain. I'm going to show you what we've got in E-Town because it's kind of been looking into some of these storms. It has been quite the shot. I'm going to move E-Town just to make sure that we are viewing towards the west on this particular camera because we do have storms that are approaching Elizabethtown right now. But our cameras here have been clutch. Again, showing these thunderstorms moving across our area, giving us an opportunity to exactly see what has been occurring. And there you go. That is the storm that is just to the west of Elizabethtown. And you can see some of the lightning strikes. In case you're curious, what is that lowering there? That lowering is gusty winds. That's what we call a shelf cloud. So the shelf is going to move into Elizabethtown. Be aware that will produce gusty winds. We're continuing to watch all of these storms. It has been hard looking around our area and seeing some of our communities that have been hit pretty hard. What we know for sure, we know early on in the day that Chaplin, Kentucky was hit by a tornado. We know that early on in the day Anderson County was hit by a tornado. I don't think, you know, oh, there we go. We've got our drone up in Jeff. Okay, so I'm going to go over to the weather wall because I want to tell you guys what we're seeing here. So this is Jeff. So I'm going to just kind of go through what we've got here as you guys look at it. This is Boulder Creek neighborhood, roof intact. Roof intact, you notice stripped here. You can see here that the shingles on this particular portion of the home were ripped. Notice all of the homes here that have shingles that are ripped off. So virtually everybody in the neighborhood here, you must have your roof inspected. You're going to start to see tarps coming out very quickly. The roofing companies will get in there. Let's continue this here. Looks like portion of the edge of this roof, which definitely was strapped, appears to be torn. This roof, the edge appears to be torn, and you'll notice that most of the roofs are torn on the same side. So what that means is the winds were moving from this direction, which I believe is the southeast, and then you can see as the tornado went by, you can see also was able to tear some of the shingles off on different sides of the roof. This structure here, you can see that the edge of this roof torn. You can see that the edge of the home was also destroyed in this area here, and then you can see shingles torn as well. You can see a lot of that was blown into the backyard here. Shingles torn off each roof. It looks to me like we're probably looking at, in this particular area, this is probably EF1 tornado damage. The fact that all of the roofs stayed intact is great news. And this is from our drone pilots here. It's great to be able to get these drones up over areas that were hit because it gives you a real true perspective of what's occurring here. And you may just say, well, you know what, that's only part of the roof that's torn off. A lot of these homes will not be inhabitable with the roof being torn off like this. Somebody I know that was hit by the Fern Creek tornado about a year and a half ago. It took them about a year because their roof was damaged to be able to get back in their home. This is another one where the roof appears to have been torn, and you can see this one also. A lot of roof damage in the again, Boulder Creek area of Jeffersonville, I believe. Andy, if you can let me know if that's correct. But you can see that a lot of these areas here, this is where a roof was basically collapsed off as it was torn, and it looks like the full side of this house was torn off. You'll notice that what appears here are bricks that were attached to the side, and it looks like it was collapsed there. This roof, again, you can see collapsed into this area. Some of the brick came off as well. Trees look like a lot of those are still standing, which to me again speaks to the idea maybe EF1 tornado. The crest of this roof still generally with intact. This one pulled off, side of the house here removed, and then you can see on the distance here another roof that was removed off of this home in Jeffersonville. Rick, a lot of what this looks like to me is EF1 tornado damage. It's just in a highly residential area. And you're going to get a lot of damage. You're really going to get a lot of damage when it occurs in a place like Jeff, Prospect, where we have a lot of homes. In particular, you know, as we go towards Prospect, a lot of those trees are older trees. So there is going to be significant tree damage in Prospect.
I know a lot of people, this is their spring break. I mean, this is not how you would imagine spending your spring break. Just a quick tidbit of information coming in. Listen, if you live in Jeffersonville, like the neighborhood we just saw, if you live in Clark County, if you need shelter of any sort or assistance, go to the Jeffersonville Fire Station. This is 5311 State Road 62. Go there if you need any sort of help. They are offering up, obviously, food, shelter, just whatever you need in the situation. That's going to be your source to go to. This is just north of Utica-Sellersburg Road. You can also call the Clark County EMA at 812-246-6996. So if you need help, Clark County, Jeffersonville, just go to the fire station.
And do we know if there have been one of the scenes that I think that we're going to probably remember from this is the trucks that were laid down,
the 3 of them.
and then the one that was on a vehicle. Have we been able to get any reports yet of what the occupants were, if we have any injuries from any of this stuff yet? We've had multiple tornadoes go through. I would say that, to me, I'm very encouraged by the fact that thus far we have not heard of injuries. I hope it stays that way. Some of this can just be in the immediacy of after everything that has occurred. It just may be difficult to get out full information. But I think what we're looking at there is that interstate where those vehicles, the two semis were flipped, and then the one on top, I think, was laid down. This is 265 and International Drive. Yes, that is. Yeah. You can see the top of that where the semi is laid down. So
it was right under that bridge where we saw that vehicle.
Yeah, but it looks like those two that were below that bridge have now been cleared out. It just looks like the one on top. Right. But obviously, you can see that there's still a lot of.
No, it's
still there.
It's still there.
Yeah, so there were two semis that were laid down behind. The one up top, notice the wrecker right on the left. It looks like he's straightened up that 18-wheeler now. The one below that was on the car, we're taking that full screen. So a couple things to note here. Notice those cans are blown to the right. So what that means is the winds were out of that direction, blowing towards the right. So it toppled that semi you see right on the bottom. And then as the tornado went by, the winds changed direction, and it toppled the semi that was up top on there. So you can see this. This is 265 in southern Indiana. You're not going anywhere. Don't attempt to drive in that area.
Both ways blocked. Look at, you can see the backup traffic trying to get off the exit.
Don't attempt to drive into that area. There is quite a bit of damage. I'm going to bring Scott Reynolds in here. Scott, you've been in this area for a long time too, and what we're seeing here in southern Indiana to Prospect, a lot of us have friends in these areas, and it's tough to see. It really is tough to see. We hope that there's no injuries, but there's a lot of damage to a lot of neighborhoods. This is highly packed areas.
And Richard Essex reported during his live shot there a while ago that he saw some ambulances leave rather rapidly. Now, that could be just somebody banged their head and they want to get him in for an MRI. There could have been some glass blowing if a window went out of a car and they got some cuts that need attention. We hope they're minor injuries, or for whatever reason they were, speeding away from the scene, but we haven't heard anything yet. And, we're just hoping and praying that there was nothing serious or fatal in it. We haven't heard anything to indicate that there was at this point. But what a mess. And you're just driving along. And like you say, you're trying to get maybe to an exit somewhere and that happens in a split second.
And, this is going to take some time to clean up here. Indiana was still in school. So, I think we're going to probably get some stories about what this felt like. Hopefully everybody either was held, but Jefferson County kids were out of school this week. So the other part to this is there may be some on spring break in places that are going to come home to damage that may not even know what happened to their
phone
area.
call that you never want to
There
get.
are probably some neighbors calling right now.
But just look at that. Look at that in Jeff. Just look at the traffic. This is why don't attempt to, if you're thinking about driving along I-265 in southern Indiana, don't. Just don't. That is a parking lot.
How long do you think this was on the ground, Mark? And does it bounce a little, or does it sometimes just really stay right down on the surface of the ground? That's something I'm not familiar with.
So I think we probably touched down on this particular one just east of I-265 near 65. I believe this one continued to move through Jeff. affect maybe just north of Utica, I believe across the Ohio River, and I believe it's the same tornado then that affected Prospect, and then went through around the Buckner exit and lifted after that. I believe that's the same tornado, which if that is on the ground for the entire time is probably a 12 to 15 mile tornado. A lot of the damage we're seeing here would be probably EF1 level damage, but remember we're seeing only a fraction of what this is. We don't know the entire line, but you can see right there on the bottom of the screen, notice that one home where it's just chunked.
It's like a bite was taken out of it.
And it does look like good construction in this area. And I can say that I do a lot of damage surveys and have for a long time. If that roof was not what we call hurricane strapped, and if you've ever looked up into the roof has kind of like an A. And Rick can speak to this because he recently did this. But where that roof meets up to the top of the wall, some older construction homes, what they did not do, and if they don't meet code, they did not put straps holding the roof onto the walls. And in that instance, those roofs loft very easily.
And the trusses and the rafters are basically where they meet. And I went up my house, I think it was constructed 1930, and there was absolutely nothing tying those two together. It was just like a nail or two. So, I mean, obviously you get some strong winds, tornado perhaps, it could rip the roof off. And once the roof is off, the sides are susceptible to coming down. So that roof is really important that you hold together. So I went on Amazon, did some research, found some nice American-made hurricane straps, went up in the roof, installed them myself, you know, had the gloves,
wow,
the head mask, the mask on.
You did not have a mask on.
I put one on after the fact that, you know, maybe I breathed in a little bit of fiberglass, but that's aside the fact. But went up there, spent hours, and put one on every single rafter, 6 screws in, just for reasons like this, because if you don't have that extra layer of protection, your home is far more susceptible to getting damaged. You can see there's certain homes that have done it, and when you look at neighborhoods, you can see, okay, well, that home didn't have it, that 100%. Home did. So when you look at damage surveys, the construction is crucial in terms of how this all unfolds, and since these are probably all done to the same code, the damage kind of similar. Also, you know, the wind direction changes, some homes got worse than others, but obviously these homes were built decent, obviously, materials and went through the codes properly where they had those straps installed, and that really saved them.
Rick makes a valid point, by the way. If you just think about it like this, if it's not being held by my fingers, so that's exactly what happens. Roofs are basically trampolines. They're parachutes. You get a little bit of wind under the roof lifts. What we know from research from engineers is that once you start to loft a roof, the roof's going to lift. When the roof lifts off the home, the walls then turn basically into pancakes and lay down. So keeping that roof on your home and make sure it's strapped is the difference between maybe losing a roof and walls at an EF1, or maybe this could be even a little bit stronger. But I can tell you that homes that have strapped roofs can handle up to EF3 winds sometimes and not see full collapsing, which is huge. I mean,
you know, it doesn't look like a ton of homes there are uninhabitable. Some, obviously, you can see in that core, and others will have water maybe coming in, but it could have been so much worse. But definitely some of those got nailed hard, and no one's going to be in those homes tonight.
And you can see, so on the right there is Jeffersonville, on the left is Buckner. Obviously, you know, in the immediate aftermath, there's going to be a lot of what happened here. But, you know, both of these counties, we spoke with Mayor Mike Moore earlier. He's still trying to get full assessment of what actually occurred. In Buckner, I believe, and you'll notice that right behind that fire truck there is a home that does not have a roof anymore. And then you can see there are many homes in that neighborhood that have the roofs that are torn. And this is going to take some time to, you know, clean up. And you can see that in the immediate aftermath, you have emergency managers, fire, police that are in these areas. That's Deer Meadow Lane in Buckner. And this is an area that we had gotten reports earlier that there were roof collapses. But you can see in Buckner here, there's a lot of damage. There's a lot of damage to these homes. I believe I actually know this subdivision. I think I've been in this subdivision several times. But again, one of the things you note, and I really would love to know, that house on the left there, why is that roof gone while the other roofs are not removed? Sometimes it can be code issues. We deal with this stuff, but we wouldn't know without being able to get out there and inspect. For what it's worth, the National Weather Service, you know, think about this for a moment. Some may remember what today's date is, some may not. The irony of this whole thing is Rick and I was on air, and we were kind of going through Gilbert Corsi's story about the April 3rd, 1974 tornado. And right at the end of that, it's almost like Mother Nature wanted to remind us, and then we got our first tornado warning. But that roof there on that particular home is completely nuked. Completely nuked. And that's a home that I don't know if you can reconstruct the roof. Obviously, there's been some rain in there, which means that their home's probably destroyed in terms of everything that was inside. And you know, we always kind of hear the stories of what happened, and hopefully nobody was home. But we'll find out in the days to come as our crew of reporters gets out there. Richard Essex has been out there. Conroy DeLucia has been out there. Katrina Nickel has been out there, kind of getting a sense of what's going on. And then I just want to give a huge shout out to all of our photographers out there. Yeah. The drone pilots are incredible. They really, really are. We have an army of drones that goes out after this. And that bird's eye view, Scott, you've seen it. Rick, you've seen it. It is definitely something different when you see it from above. I mean, it just changes your perspective in terms of the vastness.
It's a scope you cannot get from the ground. You have to be up in the air, get that bird's eye view to really understand how much damage has been done and how many lives and homes and people have been affected. We
got lucky, it seems, that Covered Bridge Road, that was just some trees there. A lot of big homes there all the way down that as it goes towards 71 and the Neville Mead Golf Course. And also Newcastle, as you said, it was kind of breaking up and maybe getting a little less dangerous as it approached Newcastle.
Yeah, the debris was starting to be lofted, not as much, and we saw the velocity, the winds start to come down. And, you know, there's certain areas, you know, you get lucky. It's really the truth. I mean, you have to be prepared, worst case scenario, but if it missed and if it lifted just before you, you know, you're blessed. I mean, this, you can see just the damage being done. People now trying to put tarps on their roof to prevent any further image. You can see the guy nailing that tarp down. You know, and they're working feverishly, you know, just trying to get this all settled up. Obviously,
it looks like, by the way, we have another tornado warning now for Bowling Green. This is not our viewing area, so I'm clear. But I just want to take a look at that real quickly.
It's that same storm.
It's the back storm.
The backside.
It looks like that the tornado, if there is one, would go south of Bowling Green. Honestly, it's just when it comes to Bowling Green, I think because of what occurred in 2021, you know, anytime you see anything near there, it just kind of raises the hair on the back of your neck. We've had some years here, you know, in our area. Where is this one?
This is in Henry County. This is guys, Jericho.
Let me see, Rick. Yeah, can you pull that one up? We've got vehicles that are flipped over in Henry County. Rick, that's just on my main. If you just pull on Mark Weinberg, it should be right at the top. So Jericho, which is in Henry County, this is near Keeper's Restaurant. There are vehicles that are flipped over in the parking lot. Rick's going to see if we can get that. Okay, so we've got that image.
You want to pull on pictures?
So weather pics. This may be more than EF1. It's not that common that you're going to turn a vehicle on EF1, so this may be EF2. All the trees laid down there, but at the same time, I mean, the insanity of this is the winds are able to flip that vehicle, but the stop sign's still standing up. Danielle Grigsby Dial sent this in. Again, this is Jericho, which would be Henry County. This is near the Keeper's Restaurant, as you can see right back there. Hopefully nobody was in that vehicle at that time. From our producers, since we don't have any active warnings in our area, at what time are we going to release back to coverage? What's kind of the plan beyond that? As we look, I'm going to show you, we're going until 8 o'clock now. So Rick, I want to go over to the weather wall. Okay. I really just want to give an update on where we stand in terms of what is going on across our entire area. And Scott, at some point I'm going to come over to you. If we can round up how many power outages we have, if we've got any reports of injuries anywhere, and then if you can kind of get us some of the locations specifically so we can make sure that we have those areas of damage. Again, as I noted, our news team's working with us. It is helpful to us because in terms of our weather team, we're always trying to do analysis of what's actually occurring. I want to spend some time, Rick, just going through each portion of the line. What do we have? Mount Washington, through around southern Bullitt County here. So this is going to be Bardstown Road here that goes through Cox's Creek. You can see that the heavy rain right now extends just north of Mount Washington along the Jefferson-Bullitt County line. We run into some thunderstorms near the Brownington area. Rick, what I'm going to do as we walk through this is let's just throw some scopes in on some of these areas. just to make sure that there's nothing here that's going to bother us in terms of wind. And I would let's look a little bit further to the east, just over that High Grove area. Okay, good news. Nothing in here shows me a signal of severe. That is good news. We're going to continue the movement. Again, we'll go northeast and then we'll go west. So Wadi Peytona exit along 64 right here. This is still producing rain. There's no lightning in it. I'm not concerned about severe. That's a positive there. We're going to make our march further now to the south and west because this is an area where we did have some severe weather. And I would, in a moment here, like to take our E-Town camera. But you can see as we go through Radcliffe, still some lightning strikes here in Rineyville, through around the Eastview area. Rick, let's scope this area as well after we do a quick storm track. Again, just to make sure that things are looking good. 2 minutes from now in the Eastview area. Cecilia, 7 minutes from now. In the Glendale area, 19 minutes from now. It's going to be in Boston, 26 minutes from now. And 32 minutes from now in the Samuel area. We're going to scope this. The reason we're going to scope it is I just want to make sure that nothing bothers me in terms of rotation or wind. Maybe a few 35, 40 mile an hour wind gusts there to the south around the Franklin Crossroads area. Radcliffe, some gusty winds. Nothing shows me any signs of rotation. Can we just give me E-Town behind me briefly at the wall here? This is the storm approaching Elizabethtown. So what are we looking at? So this is just going to be the shelf cloud. The nose of some gusty winds moving into Elizabethtown. Nothing it looks conspicuous or concerning to me in terms of rotation, lowerings or anything like that. Back over to radar here as we continue to move now further off towards the south. And you could see there was a lightning strike illuminating in the background. Let's go for radar back behind me. We're going to give a time on these storms that are near the Litchfield area. So 3 minutes from now in Cecilia, E-Town, you got about 11 minutes. You saw the storms approaching quickly. Nolan, you're going to be 22 minutes from now in Sonora, about 32. And let's make the move towards our southeast counties. You've been one of our areas where we really haven't seen a whole lot going through. So we need to make sure that this is behaving in particular more so here than anywhere else. Dunnensburg, we've got some rain, thunder right now as we move towards around center. Greensburg, through around the Hardeeville area. Rick, let's scope this area briefly as well. Just want to make sure within this area that we're not seeing anything that bothers us in terms of rotation. So let's scope around center Kentucky. Dunnensburg right now, nothing concerns me. Yeah, okay, so this does have some rotation on it. And you can see that rotation right now is near center.
That's the one that once was tornado warned.
Exactly. So Rick, let's track that area of rotation. And I'm going to keep my hand here so you can take off the scope and then we can just kind of track. There is an area of rotation here in center, and so we're going to need to watch near Fry, near Gradyville, near Cane Valley, and through the around the Gradyville area. That area rotation around 6 minutes from now is going to be near Crail Hope. XE around 13 minutes from now, about 15 minutes from now in the Thurlow area, and 19 minutes from now in the Gresham area. So this is going to be in the Greene County area in the next 20 minutes. Does have some rotation on it. Absolutely worth continuing to watch. Everything in motion as we go out to the wide perspective. You can see this is some of the areas that we have seen damage across our area. And again, Weather Service is going to get out here in the coming days and inspect. But let's look at the whole area and put the radar into motion because you can see that this is indeed pulling away. Still, one tornado warning here in the northern part of Kentucky, one tornado warning in the eastern part of Kentucky. We've got basically what's going to be show over here in Louisville. Weather Service has been really proactive in terms of lifting the watch as necessary. And Rick, it's not going to be needed for a super amount of time longer. I have to say, I'm kind of surprised that our voices have held up so much over the last 24 hours. This has been crazy. We
drink a lot of tea.
We were here until about 2 last night,
yeah.
And then I left to try to get some sleep. We did the morning coverage, and it's worth noting that Bryce and Hannah did exceptional work this morning dealing with those. We're getting some more pictures here out of Newcastle, by the way. I'm going to take a step back here because I want to show these. This looks like fairly significant damage here. This is the tornado that we knew that was approaching Newcastle. Can we go over to weather pics here? It does look like these homes are walls laid down. You can see that the roof there is torn off. I don't know the structure and the construction, But this is the area, remember earlier we said that a tornado was moving into Newcastle. Look in the background.
That brick home
right.
withstood some of it, so that structure probably wasn't as sound.
Well, it's going to be hard, you know, I think you're right. But it's tough to know exactly where the tornado moved through because the power lines are still standing.
They're still standing.
But it looks like in the background there, whatever that out home was, there's a tree laid down, and there looks like some structure in the background there that's completely level. Yeah, that could be.
That got lofted.
But it looks like I don't know what that building is in the background there. It looks like that was leveled. You know, these are things that we're going to continue to find as we continue to get more information here. But you know, we've had damage here in multiple areas. You know, one of the things, Rick, you've been doing this with me for a long, long time, that moment where you have to take it from there could be a tornado on the ground to there's a tornado on the ground. We know it. We know it by radar. It's telling us it's lofting debris. And you have to change your tone to we may see a tornado to your life's in danger right now. And that's something that we had to do a lot of times today, but the radar gave us the tools to tell people that tornadoes were coming.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely, you know, for us, because we've been doing it so long and doing it so frequently, we kind of snap and just go into, you know, recovering severe weather mode. It's really the aftermath when you start to see the images of the damage coming in. That's when it really hits your stomach and your heart and you're like, okay, this is happening. But I mean, once we saw that first tornado warning after we did the April super outbreak tornado story. It was like the coincidence
Rick's
was
like
insane.
over here, hey, and, you know,
was not saying how. I was like, I cannot believe that at the tail end of the story, we have our first tornado warning of the afternoon, because obviously the morning was busy as itself, but wave 2 and wave 1 both producing so many tornado warnings. And for us, like you were mentioning, I mean, it's a process that we're just so kind of tuned into. It's almost like mechanical at this point. But like I said, now that we're starting to see some of the images coming in, Hayden just left. She said she has damage in her neighborhood. When you have,
she's going home?
She's going home. When you have people, you know, who work with you day after day, and they're talking about damage to their neighborhood. I mean, obviously you can see pictures, but hearing the stories, hearing the voices of people, the concern when she left, I mean, I felt bad. You know, that's the kind of thing. It's like you see these people cleaning up and you look at them, but you really don't know how it feels to lose so much in such a short period of time. But thankfully, I think the take-home message today is so many, you know, so far, knock on wood, we haven't had many, if any, injuries.
Hopefully it stays that way.
I really hope it stays that way.
And so, you know, our team of reporters, anchors, our producers are out there, in studio, some out. Richard Essex has been in Jeffersonville. And Richard is in I believe, the Brook Hollow area. Richard, I see you. I see what's behind you, and it's just not what I want to see. You've kind of been in it. Explain to me the scope of what you're seeing.
Well, we just got into this neighborhood a few minutes ago. The police weren't letting many people back, and we talked our way through. But you can see that house, a brick house, with 3/4 of the side of the house is missing. And you've got some construction guys up on top that are trying to seal up the roof, but it's going to take a little bit more to seal up this side of the house. Bricks all over the yard. And if you look just past the house, some of the snapped trees. Now, these are the small trees, but if you look a little bit to the north, you can see some of the bigger trees that were just snapped like twigs coming through here. Now, I talked to a lady that lives in a house directly behind us. She said that she was getting ready to take her trash out when all of a sudden the storm came right through here. She said it sounded like, you know, like we say all the time, it sounded like a freight train, but she said it sounded like a freight train and it went right through her side yard, she said. Now, we've seen the police out here. They're going door to door, house to house to make sure that everybody's okay, and they're spray painting houses that they consider to be uninhabitable at this point. There is a young lady, Ariana, correct?
Yes, sir.
You were here during the storm?
Yes, I was.
What was it like?
I was sitting in my back window. This is my house, charging my phone up, and the rain just started pouring down real hard. And my mom was in the shower getting ready for work, and it was so quick, all that happened. I seen their debris flying from their rooftop, and I just screamed, and I was like, the roof was coming off. The roof was coming off, and we all just took shelter and ran downstairs. But it was the craziest thing that I've ever experienced.
You could hear the wind taking
loud. It was really loud, and when we were downstairs, water started coming down from the upstairs, and our roof fell in. Yeah.
The front part of your roof is gone?
Yeah, our roof is caving in right now, actually, as we speak. So.
Ariana, we're glad everybody's okay. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
And if you look just beyond their house, you see a full brick house. The roof structure is intact, but the brick on the side is gone, presumably where the storm made direct impact on that house. And then, Josh, if you could come up this way a little bit, we could show some houses that are up that way where the roof structure is gone, part of the house is gone, and you can only imagine what it was like being here with the winds coming through here, a tremendous force, taking the sides of houses, brick houses, right out from underneath them. But so far, everybody that we have talked to, we haven't heard of any injuries. Everybody seems to have ridden out the storm safely so far. Back to you guys.
And Richard, we appreciate that. You know, hearing firsthand what somebody experiences during this, I mean, it is heart-wrenching. We're grateful that there were no injuries, and we appreciate you sharing these stories with us, Richard. As we look around our area, we have more areas that we have seen damage in. Our Conroy Deluche is also joining us. And Conroy, I believe, where is Conroy specifically, guys? Is he Buckner? So Conroy, you've kind of been amongst the damage here in Buckner. So this is going to be north of 71 in Oldham County. What are the stories you're hearing about from the area?
Well, the storm just suddenly blew through. It passed through Prospect, and this is where it came to next. This is right near the intersection of Chelsea Meadow Way and Deer Meadow Lane in the Buckner area. And I'm going to step out so you can see all the damage that happened right in this line. And I've talked to a few people whose homes were not damaged, and they said they're in disbelief because they live right across the street from some of these homes, and nothing happened to their home. But this is how some of these storms work. These homes all, you can see roofs ripped off, windows ripped out, and people were inside these homes at the time. This would have been right around dinner time after people are getting home from work. People are sitting down after a long day. They were prepared for these storms, but you can see the extent of damage on at least two of these homes over here. And you can see over to my left, there's a roof that is just clean ripped off. And one of the deputies here on scene told me that he walked into the home or walked near the home, and he said it just looks like the roof was ripped off. It just isn't something that you see very often. No matter how many scenes you respond to over the years, this is not something that people are ready for every single day. But we have crews out here from across South Oldham. We have South Oldham Fire Department there, the main crews responding, emergency management. The Sheriff's Department's also out here. The power is off. Neighbors are checking in with each other, making sure that they're okay. We have some ambulances. We did talk to an assistant chief with South Oldham, the public information officer, Kevin Parker, and he said no reported injuries. So we have damaged homes, not just here. There's a couple other subdivisions, can't remember the names, but a couple of ones close by with another 5 or 6 homes that were also damaged. But he said it sounds like there were no serious injuries reported, or not even any necessary to take people to the hospital. But obviously the Red Cross is going to respond to the situation. We have people who don't know where they're sleeping tonight. We have people who their roof just got ripped off, rain got in, and they don't know when they're going to be able to go home next. We've seen a couple of people just slumped over shoulders, being held up by others, because this is, from what we're hearing, a tight-knit community. People here just really care about each other, and they're all in stun over what happened. But again, we can see damaged homes right over here and to my right, but right across the street, there is no damage. So it is just one of those storms where winds quickly tore through and then moved on. Just hearing a lot of people saying there was a loud boom at some point, and then it was over. So we've started to hear some stories from people. We've been paying attention to what's going on, obviously, across our region to see if there is anywhere else we need to go at this time. But we have checked in with the fire department. He said there are no serious reported injuries out here. And once again, we are in the Stonefield Trace neighborhood here in Buckner and Oldham County. We're here with Ariana Shuka, who's behind the camera. Zach Crabtree's about to fly up the drone so we can get a really good look at the damage, the extent that is around here. There's at least 6 homes right behind me that suffered some extent of damage. So we're going to go in, we're going to keep checking in with neighbors, see how everybody's doing. And guys, we'll go ahead and send it back to you in the studio so you can move on in our coverage. And great job so far.
We appreciate that. So, you know, in the time that I had a moment here to kind of break away, I was able to ask a friend of mine. He is one street over from where the damage you're in. And I mean, there's been a lot of us here that have seen kind of what Conroy is experiencing. That is these are areas where we have friends that live in some of these areas. And we appreciate you sharing the stories, Conroy. You know, get out there. Continue to check in on the areas, but we've been appreciating, again, all of the perspective. When we get the drone shot from where Conroy is, we'll get that and share that with you. We continue with thunderstorms around our area. I do think that it is worth noting, and I want to quickly zoom in on this one storm. There is rotation on this storm that is moving through or just near the Greensburg area. The rotation is south of Greensburg near Pierce, and you can see that's heading towards the Gresham area. This is rotation within this thunderstorm. It doesn't necessarily match to the level of what we saw earlier, but it is also worth noting that this is not a zero scenario. This is something that we do absolutely need to continue to watch. There is an active area of rotation right now in Greene County, south of the Greensburg area, heading towards Gresham. It's not warned at this point, but we're going to continue to watch this. That is the only storm within our area that is showing any signal right now of rotation. But, you know, our own Hayden Rostevsky, that you may have seen her in here a little bit earlier, had to go home to kind of, you know, take care of things as she has some damage in her neighborhood. I think that that's something that, you know, we have a fairly large newsroom, you know, so you end up with, we have a lot of people. We have people on the Kentucky side and on, as Indiana loves to call themselves, the sunny side. But you can see some of the damage that's been here. So you'll notice the truck on top, they've been able to straighten that one up. From now, you'll see on the right of that, you can see the tow truck that's going to be able to remove that. And you can see on the bottom here, they're trying to upright the tow truck, that, excuse me, the 18-wheel that is flipped over down on the bottom there.
They almost got it.
And once they get that straightened up, they'll bring in the wrecker that would then try to remove that, and hopefully we can get I-265 in southern Indiana reopened. I'm just going to take a look, by the way. You know, the beauty of being a weather center, a news station, and a TV station is we obviously have traffic system. Rick, we've got a drone up now.
Yep.
That's overlook.
So
before we leave that, by the way, guys, I want to stay on Jeffersonville. Can we pull the traffic computer real quickly? Because at least it speaks to where this area is. I do want people to note that you cannot go in one direction here. So you can see the backup that is on either side. One that here is basically near the International Drive area. That's the overpass there. You can see traffic is obviously snarled. One direction is a no-go. So eastbound is a no-go. It closes at exit 11 on Old Salem Road. And then the other direction, you can see we're starting to get some movement now, and you can notice that the truck down bottom has been uprighted. So hopefully they can get this reopened here at some point, but the truck has now been uprighted, and hopefully they can remove it. And we're starting to see some movement there now on what I believe is eastbound I-265 in southern Indiana, and I think westbound here is still closed at this point. Rick, it's been quite a day where we've had a lot of damage across our area. You know, anywhere from our executive producer Rod to our assistant news director Andy, who's been in there. You can see just on the left there's the wrecker. If we can pan back to the left, you can see the wrecker truck there that's about to back in. There he goes. That's the wrecker that's now going to try to remove that 18-wheeler. This is how things work when you get damage like this. They're going to get that wrecker in there. It's what I assume is it's going to back its way up to that 18-wheeler. The hope here is that then it can tow, grab a hold of that, and remove that from the area. You can see he's backing up now, and you can see there's multiple trucks there, but you can see the community effort that's required here in a situation like this to get the roads cleared back up. And obviously this is exactly where the tornado went through. We'll find out here in the coming days. The Weather Service will be out surveying tomorrow. John Gordon with the Weather Service is superb in getting out there. You may see John on our air from time to time. John Gordon from the Weather Service is the one that has Superman level energy. I always say this, But John Gordon and I both kind of have a lot of energy when it comes to weather. So when you get us in the same room, it's too much energy. But John Gordon is going to be getting out there and continuing to survey, and they're going to get us information on knowing exactly what happened. When I went into my news director's office today, Rick, and this is the truth, you know, I went there and I said, I'm concerned. I said, I'm concerned that we could see some strong long-track tornadoes today. I said that I didn't think that we were looking at March 2nd level where it was violent. But we had the signals there that spoke to the idea that we were going to get some tornadoes, and some of those could be long-tracked. You know, you always hope that these end up over fields and over open areas, and that's not always the way it works.
No, and today kind of proves that. I mean, you really have to just take it all into perspective and just one scan at a time when you're in the thick of it. But now we're seeing everything kind of settle down a little bit. And our news director is actually standing in the studio right now, you know, always relaying information. So I want to give a quick shout out and thanks to everyone from the news side to the production side, behind the scenes. This is basically a whole conglomerate of people working together to make this happen, to provide information for you so you know how to keep your friends and your family and yourself safe. Just a quick update. I do want to hit this one more time, that if you live in Jeffersonville or Clark County and you need some sort of shelter or you need assistance, then go to the Jeff Fire Station at 5311 State Road 62. That's where you can go and get whatever it is you need. This is, again, just north of Utica-Sellersburg Road. Or call the Clark County EMA at 812-246-6996 if you need some information or some help. So there's a quick reminder there for those of you in Jeffersonville. I know you've gotten hit very hard in terms of power outages. Clark County at 303. Oldham County is still very elevated, over 3,000. In Jefferson County, we are now below the 3,000 threshold, but the Weather Service, the crews, insurance companies, they have their work cut out for them in the coming days.
Yeah, because I mean, it's covered a lot of real estate.
Yeah.
So what happens in the immediate aftermath is you're going to get all the roofing guys in there. They're going to tarp off all these roofs. They have to tarp off the roofs because any additional rain is going to cause more problems. Then you get into the mold thing, and it really goes downhill. So what we're going to see in the immediate is a lot of roofs getting tarped. After that point, then what's going to happen is insurance companies are going to get in here. Adjusters will work with the groups. Hopefully that goes easy. I've been involved in some of those. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. I would say to the insurance companies, please make it easy. You know, it's a lot of people go through a lot during these scenarios, so let's make this easy on them. And then beyond that, then the recovery is going to take place, and it's going to take some time getting all the roofs repaired. And some of these areas cover, you know, densely rural, densely populated areas within our viewing area. Then they're going to come out. Obviously, going to have to start to redo the roofs. Many of these roofs are going to have to be completely replaced. Not just the shingles, but the structures themselves are going to need to be the wood's going to need to be done. And then they'll start to repair the roofs. But it's a process. It's a long process. A guy in my neighborhood has had damage before. Not my exact neighborhood, but my area. And he told me from roof off to being able to come back in the home was almost 9 months.
9 months? Are you kidding?
9 months. So, I mean, it can take quite a bit of time here. Scott, you've kind of been with us here. You know, in terms of, it doesn't sound like, and you kind of are more probably plugged in on the news side of this, doesn't sound like we have injuries at this point that we know of.
And that's the great news. We're not hearing anything about that. But when I was looking at the power outages, and I saw, you know, the Buckner and that area, and about 5,000 in the metro area, really, if you go all the way out to Buckner, I noticed El Genie also had about 5,000 in Lexington. So I immediately texted my son, who's at UK, and he said a bunch of his friends have trees down on top of their cars. And I haven't been able to reach my other son at Georgetown, so I'm hoping it didn't hit that area, but they're only about 20 minutes. And the twins, and so yeah, so there's trouble there too. And of course, a lot of people have their, you know, kids at UK or somewhere there, Transylvania, you know, so they're probably trying to reach their loved ones there as well right now because they had damage as well. So, but again, we're not hearing of any injuries other than maybe some people taken to the hospital when those semis were tipped over, and we hope those are just minor injuries and some checkups.
And you know, the thing is I hope that this dispels one last time. You know, this is now the second time this year that a tornado crossed over the Ohio River. I hear this all the time where people are like, tornadoes don't cross rivers. The Ohio River protects Louisville.
Old wives' tale, right?
It's garbage. You know, this is now the second year in a row where Louisville, because Prospect is Louisville, has been hit by a tornado. Last year we had 5 tornadoes that hit Louisville. 5. One came from southern Indiana, from Harrison County, crossed over. We had 3 tornadoes in Louisville during that one. And then we had 2 tornadoes in a different one. And now we have another tornado that has occurred in Louisville here. Louisville is not immune to tornadoes. And we were talking when this happened about the 1974 event, April 3. Louisville is not immune from tornadoes. A F4 tornado moved through Louisville and Northfield in 1974. Let's just remember, sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you go through periods where you don't get tornadoes. And sometimes you go through some where you cannot avoid them. In the last 2 years in Louisville, Ricky, you and I have covered a lot of these together, but we have not been able to get out of the way of tornadoes.
It's been nonstop. And it's a constant reminder, too, to not let your guard down. I mean, we live in an area that's prone to severe weather. We see it year again. And obviously, this being spring, this is storm season. And we really delineate spring as when we get the most numerous severe thunderstorms. I know it's been a little kooky lately. Last summer was wild. We had multiple severe events.
The August Paoli tornado.
It was insane. And we also have that secondary, the fall season, transitional seasons, where we get a lot of the QLCS or squall line severe storms. But this one in particular, I mean, we looking at information and data yesterday, we're kind of shaking our head like, you hope things don't happen, but sometimes you do, and it's always best to prepare, not panic, and be set up for days like this. So, hopefully you have multiple ways to get warnings. You've been in contact with your friends and your family, and hopefully we've helped you along the way. And we're obviously, going to be there with you until everything is put back up, structures are repaired. And for now, again, the take-home message is we still have not heard any reports of any major injuries or anything. And to me, that's unbelievable.
And so by the way, there's tornado on the ground in Ohio. We've got tornado warnings that are north of Maysville, Kentucky, which would be the far northeastern part of Kentucky. We have tornado warnings that are in effect for Alabama. So, I said this on some of my posts last night, that this was going to be a regional severe weather outbreak. But it appears that even beyond that, there's been numerous tornadoes. Whether this meets threshold or criteria for what we refer to as tornado outbreak, time will tell. But I think that at minimum, this is a severe weather outbreak with numerous tornadoes that have affected our area. We continue with some of our hardest hit areas to be, Jeff through Prospect. We know full well that Buckner was hit pretty badly. Newcastle, there's damage there as well. We know that there was damage from this morning. Chaplin, Kentucky had an EF1, which was confirmed. Anderson County had an EF1, which was confirmed. And this has been a 24 hours, my friends. We had 8 tornado warnings this morning, and I haven't had a chance to get back and count on this one. And just so you guys know, what's happening now is our news team is now working behind the scenes. And you're going to hear a lot of the stories about what happened. We got a taste of it. But what you're going to hear tonight at 10 is a lot of these stories of people and what they experienced. I think we all take it as an honor to be able to share some of those stories. And I think that what we hear is going to be some really terrifying moments. And also, some people that probably made some good decisions, and the good decisions mean that you just have to deal with damage and cleanup tomorrow. We don't have to go to funerals. That's always our hope with all this stuff.
A lot of gratitude. I think we're going to hear that tonight because, the roof, it's a lot of trouble, but if everybody's okay, that's wonderful.
And let me be clear, this is a testament to the weather enterprise. We hope that you choose us at WDRB. We also recognize that we're a team and a group. I say this all the time, but we work in a television market that's highly competitive because we have exceptionally talented people. And this makes it hard for all of us, but we work in a market with really, really good meteorologists. And that means that, wherever you choose, we hope you choose us. But it means it's a testament to the weather enterprise in terms of getting out the warning. And I think I speak for everybody that works within meteorology. Again, not just in WDRB, not just the Weather Service, but there's a number of stations in this market. I think people sometimes think it's like the movie Anchorman and somebody's got like a trident, but it really is not that way. There really is some admiration amongst the group, and we know that we work with skilled people in the whole market. But we hope that as a weather enterprise that we were able to help you in these times. So eventually we're going to move back in here to programming in the next few minutes. News is going to be really working behind the scenes on getting those stories. We're going to find out, one of the questions that always comes up is how long is it going to be that I'm without power? We'll try to get some of those answers for you. In terms of what we have for storms, I'm going to do one last radar update here before we go back, because I think it's important to note where we have storms and not forget. You'll notice that we've got tornado warnings here continuing in eastern Kentucky. Big Mike, how much longer until we go back to programming? Got it. We've got tornado warnings that are near Maysville, not Mayfield, Maysville, Kentucky, and this one's a tornado confirmed. We've got severe thunderstorms right now, strong thunderstorms right now. This is one of our stronger thunderstorms near the Romine area. If you recall, this is the one that actually had the tornado warning on it near Bowling Green. Still shows subtle rotation, not enough to warrant a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning, but I will tell you that we are watching it closely. The reason that we would believe some of this would remain aloft is because the temperatures have come off their highs, which were quite warm. We've got thunderstorms that continue to the west. And so, I want to give you a perspective on who. So here's Litchfield. This is going to be the eastern part of Grayson County and the western part of Hart. So near Horse Cave, really Mammoth Cave. Mammoth Cave is about to get a really, really heavy downpour with thunderstorms. This goes northward into the Grayson County area here near Dog Creek. Then we go towards Millerstown, Caneyville. Then we go into Hardin County. So we've got that storm that just moved through E-Town. Glendale right now, some lightning, some thunder. That's just to the south of the Western Kentucky Parkway. That goes to the north, and then we roll our way into Nelson County near Nelsonville. Here's Bardstown and Cox's Creek through around the Bardstown area. Rain thunderstorms right now, not severe. Remember, we've cooled this atmosphere. Remember, the wind energy was always there. But I said this yesterday, the wind energy is the engine of a ZR1 Corvette. It does 0 to 60 in 2.5. I mean, that car rips. Now, what would happen if you were to put water into that gas tank? It doesn't go. And so the fuel was there earlier on. Now that we've cooled the atmosphere, we don't have that level of fuel anymore. Simpsonville, we've got rain ongoing right now. Good here is we've been able to clear Prospect out of some of that rain, which is important because we've got homes that are still minus roofs. We've got rain thunderstorms that continue to move through the state capitol in Frankfort. We've got rain thunderstorms near Lexington. We've got some reports, as Scott mentioned, of some damage out of the Lexington area. We have strong thunderstorms in the rural parts of southeastern Kentucky. And Rick, if we could, I just want to animate this one, and I want to take it out to the wider perspective because I just want you to see that this just doesn't cover our area. You can see there's severe weather in Ohio, and let's take it a little further south so we can take a look. We've got severe weather also with tornado warnings in southern Tennessee, and we've got severe thunderstorm warnings in the northern part of around the Alabama and Mississippi area. And Rick, that's right, when you look in northern Illinois, you can see that we've got some showers here. Remember, we'll continue to have updates and stories on WDRB.com. For Rick DeLuca, I'm Mark Weinberg. We appreciate you guys.